Order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike.
I'd like to go over all the articles with you tonight, and just to give you an idea of where the money will be coming from for the articles, we are looking to raise and appropriate $75,000, and that's because we had put in the budget for this current year the money for the assessment for the new construction of Bristol County Aggie, and that will not be going out this year, so that money will be available. I'm proposing to use $1,918,144 in free cash, and in the capital, we'll be using $84,000 of the ambulance reserve. So just to give you an idea of some of the sources of revenue.
How much was that free cash again? $1 million?
Of the free cash, $1,918,144.32.
Thank you.
2 million.
And just to also go over where we'll be with the free cash, if we approve everything. Our beginning balance was $3,340,583, and holding $600,000 for next year's budget, using $627,792 for this year's budget, $90,000 for OPEB, $900,000 into capital, $300,000 into stabilization, and holding $250,000 for snow and ice. That will reserve $572,791. And obviously, if we don't have a bad winter, we'll have some of that $250,000 available. And I handed out to you tonight, I think you might have had a capital plan in your package, but the one I handed out was just voted. There was that item added. If you remember, the superintendent was here last week, and there was an item for some interactive displays that was added and approved. That will be go over that later. The first article on the warrant is separation expense, I believe. Get to the warrant. Oh, also in your packet, you have the final budget as voted at town meeting. Not sure that you had that before, so just so you... The first article is unpaid bills, excuse me. And under Article 1, we have 2 unpaid bills for the Planning Department. $210 for an advertisement for employment for the director's position that was put into the Mass Municipal Association publication, and $142.32 for advertising in the Sun Chronicle for employment opportunity listing for a secretarial position. And both those bills are prior years. So I'd ask for a motion to approve Article 1, total of $352.32 from free cash.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move $352.32 from free cash.
Second.
Any discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous?
And the second article is separation expense. We don't have any separation expense right now, so I would ask that you vote no action on that article.
Mr. Chairman, I vote no action on Article 2 for separation expenses.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Article 3 is budget, the budget supplement article, and this is to appropriate funds to supplement the budgets that were approved in May. And my recommendation to the board is in your packet.
645, 292.
292.
Let me just find that.
And this is all free cash?
This would be $75,000 raise and appropriate, and the balance from free cash. Tom will get his math work going. So I'll just go over these with you.
Yeah.
The first item under the treasurer's office is a salary correction, and that is $5,362. Under conservation, it is an expense request of $1,090. Police is $149,000 for the salary account. And this was overtime that we didn't fund in April. Fire, $103,000 under the salary account. This was also overtime that was not funded in May. Fire, $19,000 in expense. Actually, $17,000 of this is a new expense. We need to do an assessment center for our deputy chief. We have an interim deputy chief right now, and under civil service, we are required to do an assessment center, and that's going to cost us $17,000. So, under emergency medical, we had cut his expense line item also in May, and $21,000. Communications, the $31,000 is the overtime account. Budget supplement for the school department, $270,000. Council on Aging was shot in their salary by $840. The treasurer will be going out to, she had to go out to borrow actually for the window project, and she didn't anticipate that that was going to be as soon as it was. And so this is $5,000 in temporary interest for temporary borrowing. And unemployment expense, $40,000. Right now, we had put in $75,000, and we're averaging over $15,000 a month at the unemployment account. And to survive the 26 weeks, we'll need $40,000 more. Right now, under unemployment, we put $75,000 in. August, we expended $23,000, leaving us with a balance of $52,000. And in August, the monthly charge was $15,160.
So, can we say the unemployment is the schools?
It is.
Okay. On the three accounts with the overtime, do you know off the top of your head what we cut last spring out of each and what we're putting back?
The amount that you're putting back is what was cut.
Okay.
Mike?
Yep.
On the school side, has the 270 of the 366 been communicated to the school?
No.
And the justification for
The difference?
the difference is based on,
Just trying to maintain some of that money so we have money for next year's budget.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it because we moved the 99,000 into the capital?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Is that right? Okay, just,
Well, that's
So they're
part,
actually-
that's part of it, but no, because if you look at the three items that are left,
The capital came out of the 485. The 99 we moved to capital came out of the 465 that he requested.
so then where are we?
Their original request was 465, which included the 99,000.
Yes. So that already
That
shows.
brought it down to 366, 830.
So what did they ask for that they're not getting?
and if you, I mean, you obviously have options with your unemployment. If you wanted to rely on reserve fund for that, you could take that 40,000 and add it to that account.
I don't see
see the school?
Yeah, so we don't know what the school wouldn't get with this cut?
I can't say. That would be up to,
Can we find that out? Because we have, what, another week, really, to get through this?
you have another week. But if you want recommendations, they're supposed to be posted by the 5th.
Okay. Yeah.
Friday. So it looks
So you
like
do
we're
meet- you
not
can meet again
funding
next
the
Wednesday.
virtual infrastructure replacement, because I'm seeing the materials and supplies number is the same as the document we got at our last meeting. The 99,000 for the projectors has been moved to capital. 61,275 for extended school literacy services. And 24,115 for professional development. So what I'm not seeing,
This is all that was requested, other than the 99. This is the 366, 830.
right,
They requested. Supplies.
Right.
so
So
the,
basically, he's gonna make the decision,
so I think
or
are
the school
these,
committee's gonna make the decision about where to take the 94,000
So we can vote on
Okay.
off these three numbers.
okay.
If that's what we vote for. And then you just suggested we take the 40,000 from unemployment, rely on the reserve
You
fund
have to abstain.
to cut that down to 40,000.
That stuff we got from the school committee last week. I didn't bring it tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
That totals to 366, yeah. But we're giving them only 270. I mean, the recommendation.
Oh,
So, So there's no particular item that is going necessarily because the proposal is 270 rather than 366. They just, we'll have to figure out of all of these things that they asked for, where they want that to come in and what
Whether they're
form.
less for supplies or whatever.
Yeah, or one of the,
Yep.
practically these two down here, the 61 and the 24. Given where they are with supplies, my hunch is that those are the two things that probably will go. And they seemed like pretty good things to me, but it's a question of what we can afford. Thank you.
Amy?
Can I just ask the question why the only department that didn't get level services funding last year isn't getting their full supplemental request?
The departments that, on the town side, are getting their money put back that we didn't give them so that we could give the schools more money. Now, if this current year you want us to fund police and fire and communications overtime in May, I'd be glad to do that, but I was trying to provide more money for the school department in September, so we didn't fund those overtime accounts pending our free cash.
Uh,
Mike, and I think I know the answer to this, but in the schools, it's a bottom line budget. Is there any way or stipulation that we can track the funds that we approve here for these justified items and make sure, okay, in this case, $281,400 is spent on supplies? I know they can move things around, and I know, bottom line, and I know there's leeway if there's positions they can, but is there any other way to track that?
You can ask them to provide you with their expenditures reports, but technically you don't, they can, as you said, they can move it around any way they want.
And if we were to go for the full funding, that would bring our free cash balance down to 475.9, roughly, okay.
Just to point out that they won't even be able to spend the 281 because we're only, the proposal is
Right.
270.
Right.
So they wouldn't be able to fully do that, nor would they be able to do either of the other two. I mean, if they can move the money as they wish, then they can decide to do other things and get less supplies. But after having listened to him talk about their problem with supplies at the last meeting, I think that certainly is probably the major priority, because they were just running totally on empty.
And the other
What
thing
you said.
I suggested, if you want to go and add that 40,000 for unemployment, it would bring it up to 310, and then, you know, you just have to be ready to use your reserve fund if necessary, or if we do overspend, or if we're getting to that point, you know, in May, we could put money back in, but we may have to go to the reserve fund before May. But that would bring it up to 310.
And the reserve fund at this point has,
I don't think we've spent anything yet, have we?
Reserve fund?
What's, you haven't spent anything out
No,
of the
we haven't
reserve
spent
fund? No.
Got
So-
150 in it.
I'll entertain any motion or,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I move that we reallocate the $40,000 in account 001-911-570 to the schools for supplies and other materials.
Second.
Any discussion? Or any further discussion? All those in favor?
I have to abstain.
And
Opposed? One abstention?
And I'll talk to the superintendent tomorrow and get back to you. And then you'll be meeting before town meeting anyway, so if you had to make any adjustment.
Was it the main?
What options do we have in front of us for finding the remaining $56,000?
You could,
Finding, but
funding,
You could write a check.
you would have to use more free cash to fund.
56,000 out of remaining, what did you say, 479?
572 was the balance today.
572 right now.
Right. 572. And that'll come out of 572.
So if we want to round down 500.
So what he was saying, yeah, roughly 97 would have brought it down to 475.
So that motion that we just made and passed was to change the 270
310,
to
310.
40 to 0.
And this,
Do we have to do each line item?
So we have 560.
I think we have to do every line
I
item.
think we have to do every line item,
Right.
don't we? Mike? We have to vote every line item
Would have.
or not?
Yes,
Yeah.
not for the schools, would just be one, but you should
Yeah,
vote.
But all the others.
Yeah.
you-
Vote every
you
other.
have
Yeah.
to do
So
each
Mike,
one.
on that, which of these would be the raise and appropriate of 75,000?
Just, you don't have to do that, you can just vote them all, and in the end, you just say, and to fund it, raise and appropriate 75,000, and then the balance.
I can abstain for the rest.
Mr. Chairman? I move $5,362 to account 001-147-510, treasurer.
Second.
Should I just do them all, or each individually? I was gonna lay them out.
We have to vote them individually.
Okay.
You second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Now I have to abstain. That's the item I have to abstain.
Vote on the other one.
Yeah, I can vote on the other ones.
Mr. Chairman, I move $1,090 to account 001-171-570, conservation expense.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I move $149,000 to account 001-210-510, police salary line.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Question to Mike. I know this is the amount that we took off. We're putting it back, all right, but you've had several months in between, and I'm wondering how firm you feel that figure is, or whether in fact it could be less, or whether in fact it should be more.
I know the chief told me already, what percent of your overtime did you spend already?
Yeah, I haven't made any adjustments. We've been going right along. I'm not going to pay your public safety or office.
Come on up
safety at this
to the,
point. Good evening. Yeah, we've spent about 38% of our overtime already, over $111,000. You know, we haven't made any adjustments as of right now. I'm not going to endanger public safety or officer safety for a couple dollars. So, you know, our minimum manning hasn't changed. We're at 3 officers on the road, with the exception of Friday and Saturday nights, when we've been having 4 for the last year plus. That's the only difference that we've had. So, you know, certainly summer is a high vacation time, but the winter is when we send officers to a week of in-service. 40 hours every officer attends. So certainly still take vacation time and holiday time and things like that. And we have specialized training and departmental training for firearms, taser, use of force, mental health, a whole gamut of different training. So we've, so just, while I'm here, so I requested $434,700. We received $285. That's a cut of $149,700. We've spent, as of, you know, it's actually, this number's changed. As of 9/8, we've spent over $111,000, which is 38%. Last year, we budgeted 414 for overtime. We spent 470, which was a deficit of 555. The only reason I didn't come back and actually gave money back to the reserve fund is because we had some officers that retired, so we had their salary money. We had one officer that retired in his salary money, one that was dismissed from the academy that August, so we had his salary money that made up the difference. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Quick question. If you were to have, even if it was remotely possible, 2 officers in a patrol car at a time, is that even something that, what would that cost be?
Oh, God.
Or is it
Well,
even?
I mean, you're talking, you know, we split the town east and west by Route 140. So at the minimum, we have an east side car, a west side car, and a patrol supervisor. That's at the minimum. So if we have 4 officers on the road, we have an east side car, west side car, center car that controls, that is responsible for Route 140 to the Washingtons, and then a supervisor. So to add people to that, I mean, this would be well over double, I would imagine.
Okay.
You know, what we're trying to do is add officers, which we hadn't done for a long time, to keep the overtime at a minimum. If we didn't add a couple officers, like we just had 3 come out of the academy that won't be ready until November to be on their own, but if we didn't do that, like, this overtime would be at $700,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Easy.
So, have you run into scenarios where somebody's by themselves, or a stop, or any safety?
You know, we're pretty good. I mean, there hasn't been anything that's, you know, really happened, but, you know, it's funny, I just get an email today, just 2 minutes ago, about 5 officers being shot, 1 pronounced dead in South Carolina. You know, we've had 2 officers shot at 2 years ago. Anything can happen at any time, so.
Thank you.
You included that in my evening newscast.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Officer Target, is conventional wisdom that 2 is a preference to 1, that there's safety, officers prepared?
No, I mean, maybe in Boston or something, but, you know, we're 27 or 28 square miles. You know, backup is usually right there, not too far away for the most part. But that's why we've increased the staffing over the last year to, on Friday and Saturday nights, which are our busiest nights, to 4 officers on the road, so that we don't get 2 officers tied up at a domestic, 1 in an accident, and 1's by themselves.
Question, Chief, what is the composition of the force as far as age? Is it like a third, 5 years out to retirement, then you have a middle pack, and then you have rookies, or?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, you know, we are getting some that probably will retire. It's funny, it's like we take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We had 3 out of the academy, but there's a potential that next year 3 people could retire. So then we're, you know, every time we're bringing people on, it's not long before people, you know, leave or retire. So, but that probably would be pretty adequate to say that.
So it's pretty balanced, or you try to keep it that balance?
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the next year, we'll probably have 2 more. So, you know, in the next 2 years, there's probably 5 people that'll retire. And then it'll be probably another 4 or 5 years before there's another group of people. I think the majority of people in the department probably are around the 15-year mark. So,
Just a follow-up question, are you recruiting within other departments, or are you getting them fresh?
we're using the civil service list.
Civil service,
Mhm.
so they can transfer from another town, or?
Well, if we ask for a lateral transfer, they could do that, but we haven't done that. We've just, you know, we use our special police force that we train as special police. They come in, they're kind of our farm club, like the Pawtucket Red Sox, and we, you know, they take the civil service test, and we'd like to. We don't always do it, but we like to hire from that so they become full-time.
Yeah, yeah, no, I just curious how there's any variables that change from year to year, or you kind of keep the same?
Yeah, you know, in the budget every year, I have put together like a historical perspective of vacancies, and somebody is always leaving, whether it's anticipated or not, due to injury or retirement or other. Somebody's always leaving, probably once a year. So,
And what's the time frame from hiring to they're able to be on their own?
so that's a great question. So, you know, if I get a civil service list today, We do interviews, we do a background check, we do physicals and psychologicals. Those take about 2 months to do from today's date. So then we have to find an academy. Academies, you can't just walk in the door tomorrow. The academies throughout the state are scheduled at different times. The 3 that just got out, we sent to New Braintree, which is where the State Police Academy is. So they went in April. They just got out. They went April 2nd, got out September 14th. So now they go through the FTO program, which is 8 weeks. It's basically like a year-long project to hire somebody. So, you know, what I've talked to the town manager, and what we've trying to do is try to get ahead of it, and when we anticipate a vacancy, to hire somebody before they leave. So if we were to, if there's a couple-month period where we can do that, and they, you know, they're in the pipeline, then even though it costs a little more, you know, it could cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more. I mean, on the other end, we hope to make that up.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief.
Thanks.
So I think I made a motion for the 149.
I think Rick, you seconded.
I seconded it, yeah. That was police.
That was police. Did we vote on it?
We did not vote. No, we did not vote.
Okay,
That
so,
was the discussion. Can't vote yet.
any more discussion? Aaron?
So from the sound of things, this 149 is not going to get them all the way through?
Well,
Well, it's 149 on top of
Right.
what they already have,
Yeah.
which should.
given their,
So-
given the rate that they're expending, which is, I think, what you're getting at,
Requested
they might not, even with that, get through. Then they'll be coming to our reserve fund for that. That's why we have a reserve fund.
We can feel for now that the 149 is adequate for now.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do more now, but.
Right. Any more and any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move $103,000 to account 001-22510, Fire Department salary.
Second?
Any discussion?
I do have one question. Mike, can you explain what the assessment center actually is, or is it a process?
Yeah, that's down under the expense, but the assessment center is, it's a panel of chiefs that the candidates that want to be deputy chief will be interviewed. They'll go through scenarios with them, you know, different situations that'll come up at a fire scene, and they rank the candidates based on the assessment that they do of them.
Okay, and so is that 17 really for the time of those people on the panel?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Did you second? Yep. Any more discussion? All in yep.
I was just gonna ask if we know what the total number for the overtime fire is for
Fire.
the year.
Yep. I think I gave you that in your packet. You have the budgets as requested and approved, but I can tell you,
The numbers fire?
606,655, $606,655.
Okay.
All set.
Higher than police, just,
Yeah,
yeah.
has been.
Is there any thought of adding staffing to help bring those numbers down? I know Chief Schleicher's not here.
That's okay. He has been doing that gradually, but he's been hit with the same things that the police chief referred to. It seems like every time we hire somebody, someone either retires or goes out injured, so it's always catch up. But we are working on it, and believe it or not, recruiting now is the class of candidates is really getting small now. It's really tough, but it's the same thing. As we hire them, we have to then wait for an academy, and we only, they only schedule them a couple times a year now. The civil service process takes a long time too, so, but we're gradually trying. That's why we raised the ambulance rates a few years ago, and we upped, by what we use for the budget out of the ambulance, we upped it 100,000 a few years ago so that they would have the money to put 2 or 3 more on. But every time it seems like we're playing catch up. But he's still working on it. Hopefully, if you look, the force is getting a lot younger now. There are a lot of new guys on.
And is it because of the low unemployment rate that no one?
I don't know. I don't know if you, Chief, have heard any.
There's an article actually just yesterday in American Police Beat. I mean, not every.
We've kind of talked in circles of chiefs that, the pool of candidates is now a puddle. If you look what's going on in the media, like, nobody's jumping forward and say, oh, this looks like a great job. I want to be shot at. I want to be ridiculed. I want, like, seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that, the millennial generation is looking at that and seeing I can do other things rather than this. So, we do have our own issues with civil service, but, certainly the last 3 candidates we got were great candidates. So, but that pool is now a puddle. So it's definitely more difficult to find people. And I don't mean find people, I mean find quality, people that you want to serve as police officers.
Yeah. Thank you.
But what you said, today we had our Southeastern Regional Services Group meeting. Yesterday, the director met with the DPW directors, and they were talking about salt deliveries, and the companies were saying they're having trouble getting truck drivers at $40 an hour. So, I mean, there just isn't the pool of candidates in a lot of jobs now.
For a second job? Your spare time?
In my copious spare time, yeah.
All right, we have a proposal and a second. Any more discussion? Nope. All in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move $19,000 to account 001-22570, Fire Department expense.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move $21,000 to account 001-230-570, emergency medical expense.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Just on that, the bulk of that is ambulance billing, because we're bringing in more, it's terrible to say, bringing in more revenue. A lot more ambulance runs, constantly. It seems like the 2 ambulances are out. And so the billing, along with that, has increased about 9% a year because it's based on the revenue. And so I had cut that by 10,000, and I thought, no way. And then I looked at what's been coming in, and the chief was right in his request for that.
Okay, where were we on that vote? All in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move $31,000 to account 001-29510, communication salary.
Second?
Any discussion?
Question. Mike?
Mike?
Yeah.
How's the regionalization going?
Actually, we just got word from the state that we're awarded a $2 million grant to help us with our construction. So hopefully, we're going to be in there July 1. It's going to be located, it's called High Rock is the name of the place, over off of Route 1 in Foxborough. And there's a facility that was built there, almost like a bunker that was built during those days. And there's a tower already there. So we'll have good coverage from that tower.
Mike, we won't see the effects of that until next budget year?
Right.
Okay.
That's why I'm hoping it's July 1, so we don't have a split year.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
We're moving on. With the schools coming up next, if we were going to discuss, or I wanted to make a motion to move the remaining $56,830 to fully fund this school request on the test.
Yeah.
Do we have to vote on communications first?
Well, we have to vote on communication, but yeah, right,
vote on-
right after.
Sorry, I thought we did.
No.
We didn't vote.
We didn't vote on it. So, any more discussion on communication? All in favor? Unanimous?
So now we have to bring it up for reconsideration.
Just, no,
All right.
move to 310.
Mr. Chairman?
And then he'll make a motion.
Okay,
Amend.
we voted on the 310 already.
So that's what you move now.
Yeah,
for-
to move there.
Mr. Chairman, I move $310,000 to the school as a budget supplement, account 001300.
Second.
Any discussion? Aaron?
I would, I'd like to see us get behind the schools and add the remaining $56,000, $830 if we had to in free cash, to provide the full amount requested of $366,830.
Paul?
I know it's been given already, but give it to me again. What would that leave us with in free cash?
516,170?
I can't hear you, sorry.
516.
I believe it's about 516.
Yeah.
If it was the exactly 572
Yeah.
before the 56,830 was taken out.
16,170.
But
Which is how much of the,
I just want to clarify, but that's taken into account holding 600,000 for next year and holding snow and ice and,
I think we still.
Well, I have a very good idea where we can recoup a good bit of that. So that's coming up later.
I think that's
Stay
why
tuned,
that's
everybody.
last.
Stay tuned. Review coming attraction.
OPEB wars.
Four pages from now.
Never get there.
did we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Sure they do.
the
Paul
amendment.
Actually, Paul made the second. You
Well,
seconded.
I seconded the original, but you're making an amendment to?
You gonna
Yes, I'm making
Yeah.
an amendment.
No, we're
that
gonna-
I'm,
we're gonna vote on the amendment.
suggesting
So we have to
the
vote
full amount
on the
using
amendment.
the balance from free cash.
You need a figure.
Balance of $56,830 from
Then
free
that becomes
cash
the
to
main
account
motion.
001300.
I'll second.
So
We're gonna vote on the amendment.
we're then moving the 310 to,
366,830.
The original
830.
amount.
Yeah, the amount requested.
That's the amendment.
Yeah. And
So
then
the
it would
delta's-
raise it to the 366.
Yep.
With the money to come from free cash.
Yeah.
so in considering the amendment, any more discussion? Okay.
Um,
Yep.
Just to be, so I'm sure on this, this 516 would then would be left in free cash.
Correct.
That's after you are reserving snow and ice and the other. So it's really-
600.
This is available funds, not
Right.
funds that are,
Right. That,
put in, at least in theoretical escrow.
right, yep. Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Aaron?
Thank you, Paul. I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't go after this money for the schools if it were allocated for something in the near future.
Well, I'm just more concerned what the total is that would be left after we vote this.
Right.
That it would be there for,
500,000.
Yeah, I'm not trying to kick the can down the road on snow and ice.
About 500 and change.
No, all that's still there.
Bob?
There's Bob.
Evening. I'm not going to preach, and I've been preaching at the selectmen's meetings about every penny we spend this year will have an impact on next year's budget. And that's just basically what I'm throwing out. I'm not saying I'm against this or I'm for it. I'm just suggesting that every penny we spend is going to have an impact on next year. Just came out of a capital improvement meeting. We want to put $900,000 aside, which is almost the amount we've been using consecutively for a few years now. Had a major discussion about whether or not we should put 900,000 or we should do 800,000, 700,000, 600,000, and save that extra revenue for the following year. My argument was that we could still put it in the capital and we could do a transfer if we had to at the next town meeting and move some of that if we felt we had surplus, which I don't think we're going to have. I think in the long run we're going to have to spend it anyway. But getting back to some of these. Most people at home don't understand that, like on the salaries, we cut back on the overtime accounts in May because we have to balance the budget. If we didn't do that, we would have been taking another $280,000 in cuts. Mostly would have been salaries. Let's face it, that's where the money goes from. So what we do is we wait to the fall town meeting, we try to put that overtime money back in, anticipating that's going to happen. In addition to that, public safety turned back about $137,000 this year, which became part of our free cash. So, again, everything we spend now will have an impact on what we have for next year. So, I've been cautioning the Board of Selectmen all along about this, and I know I don't have to caution you guys. You understand the process, but I just want to be public about my concern about what's going to happen in 2020, based on what happened in 2019. So, I know you guys are doing a right job, though.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
With that said, Bob, this is one of the reasons why I've kind of asked that this committee in this town work on projections so we have a much clearer understanding instead of, kind of guessing what next year and then the year after will be. And I think it's very important that this town get behind that and, devote the resources needed so that we actually have numbers instead of a gut feeling.
You mean projecting what our free cash might be?
Just projections in general.
Receipts,
to see what next year will bring, because we have we have a lot of the information, but we're not putting it out there. And with the information, you would be better able to say, yep, we can afford X in capital, yep, we can afford X in something else, instead of right now just kind of saying, well, we have free cash of $4 million, let's spend it. Projections will kind of show you when you can and cannot spend it, and the impact of certain decisions that we make, how it's going to affect us next year, the year after, and the year after. And we need to get there.
I agree when it comes to expenses, but when it comes to government, it's very difficult to project what the revenues are going to be a year in advance. And even though we can look back and say free cash, well, we've had a couple of million, for the past couple of years in a row, that's fine. And we can even project that we will have, we will have $2 million next year in free cash. So, that's good, but we still can't use that for the budget.
That's right.
Because that money, we can project that it's going to be there, but, the government, gets into enough trouble as it is projecting things. But we don't want to say that $2 million is there. We don't want to take action until that money is actually there.
You can't take action. You have to balance the budget.
And, I understand what you're saying, but you can't project the revenue side. You can hope, that's all you can hope that's what it'll be there, but for whatever unforeseen circumstances come up, that money just might not be there.
But it's still better than not knowing at all. And right now, we're kind of winging it.
Yeah.
We are. Paul?
I would like to suggest that this is a major topic that needs a fair amount of undivided attention. And if I may I go back to talking about the line item that's in front of us? We seem to have gotten off on some tangents here. I'm going to vote for this amendment because I am aware over the years of year after year after year when to make the school budget work, one of the things that they always can cut from seems to be supplies. And we've heard that they've been doing this. And the description he gave last time of where they were at supplies, I can relate to, because I can remember back when my wife was an elementary teacher at LG North School, where she went out and spent several $100s buying what should have been school supplies because it wasn't there. They had to use that money for something else. And that's been going on the last few years. So I think this, despite the fact that I dislike getting free cash down as low as this will do, and it will be a gamble of sorts, I'm going to vote for this because I just think they've been hurting, not just in one year or something else, but they've been hurting on the supplies issue. This is accumulation of a long time, and they need, I'm sure he's not asking for anything more than just barely getting them back to some sort of sufficiency, minimal sufficiency.
I think when Dr. Vada last week when he was here, he told us that he has science teachers who can't perform certain labs in their classrooms because they don't have the supplies. This is what that money's going to go to. There are kids, there are things that the kids are not learning that's having a real impact. And we should take both of them.
Mike, financial reporting from the schools, do they provide that automatically to the town? I know we get a bottom line budget, we get our monthly report. It just shows bottom line. Is there any other financial reporting that the town gets from the schools?
No.
Saying this is where they are with specific line items?
No.
The budget that they give us.
Only the one they give us.
The one that they give us each spring.
We see the budgeted numbers, but not the finals, not periodic.
We
going
don't-
forward.
He says, like we get our annual report or
Okay.
what the budgets are.
I mean, they do
Or
break it
one
down,
line item,
they
300.
break it down incredibly in the budget that they.
In the book they give us,
that
yeah.
they send to us,
Oh, yeah.
but you're talking about where they actually wind up.
That's what he said.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
But that budget that we got this year showed what their actual expenditures in these areas had been the previous year.
As of a period, right, as of a period.
So, and they weren't done with them this year when we got that budget, so.
Right.
Is that something we can get on a periodic basis from them?
I can ask the school business manager.
That's an awful lot of.
Not gonna get it, but you can ask.
Well, that's a god-awful time-consuming thing to do something like that.
Mike, did-
Yeah, I just want, the cuts that we're talking about are they're not even cuts, they're just supplemental requests, but you're assuming that the cuts are coming from materials and supplies. Now, we all know that it's a one line item figure, so any cut, it's up to to the school department to figure out, whatever cut they're gonna make. So it's just an assumption that extra $56,000 would go to the supplies. So we really don't know where that money would go to.
Well, the superintendent tells us that's what it is. We either believe him or we don't.
No, but-
He just means of the
281 is going to supplies. That's what he's saying. 281, 440 is going to supplies.
Yep. That's correct.
In addition to what was budgeted.
No, this is be more, well, my guess is more for the other two programs.
That's what I'm.
That's a guess.
Two stuff-
Right.
Yes,
Right,
it
we-
is.
It's a
They're
guess.
only
It's not a guess,
speculating.
it's factual, it's right here. 61,000 will go to extended school services, and 24,000 plus.
Unless he chooses to
will go
cut, but he could
something else.
cut the supplies. and do
Based on
those.
what he
Yeah.
Present.
Based on
gave
his
us
breakdown.
last.
I didn't, I wasn't here last week.
Yeah,
So I
right.
missed a lot of that.
That's what.
We had a whole meeting.
I think, Bonnie?
Yep, I wanted to say that I, in my other outside life, am a social worker, and I served in the spring on a committee made up of people across the district, including parents, that evaluated the social emotional needs in the district. And it was staggering, which I believe is what he described when he came in here, and I'm sure the chief could speak to as well, with how many times they are headed to the high school and the needs that are so severe in the elementary schools as well. So to think that I just know from that months-long sort of research that we did over the course of the spring that this $24,000 to train staff to be able to be better equipped for those circumstances and then train each other, I think would be very well spent. And I would be, it would be a tragedy to see that $56,000 affect this 24, because it is sort of the smallest amount.
That would be taken out, Bonnie. Because if we give him the 310, he can spend the 281, 440, and get all the supplies he needs, plus he could spend the 24, 115, and still have $5,500 left over.
He could, but he would have to make that choice.
Yeah,
And so
and that's-
something gets
yeah,
lost, and it would be, in my opinion, it would be unfortunate to see that be what's cut out of this proposal.
Right. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen during the year. I mean, my caution to the school department would be don't buy the supplies until later on in the year when you're sure you're through all the sped, so we don't have any new students coming in that you may need that money for. But they don't know, until they get further in the year, what's going to come up.
I was just going to say, if I remember correctly from Dr. Bieta, the 61,275 is for a pilot program that he's actually going to try to implement. So it's kind of hoping that he could get the committal from the students and the parents. But, I mean, it's something that he thinks it's worthwhile, and it's going to
It was
reap
basically
in the back
literacy,
end.
basically
Right.
literacy,
Right.
extra
So,
help, extra time for literacy.
So, I think it's something that, obviously it'll probably go in the operating budget as next year, part of the, once it gets off the ground, but I think it's a program that he's confident that will benefit. So,
And just like caution on things that could come up, our energy costs. We were fortunate, and this is Rick's thing, so we were fortunate last time we went out to bid that we were right at the rock bottom of prices. And our electricity right now is 0.857, so 8.5 cents per kilowatt. And we had a call today, and we could be looking at, in a couple weeks when we go out to bid, an increase of $40,000 in the town's electrical costs for the year and $56,000 for the school department, just because all the prices are at 10 cents a kilowatt now, over 10 cents. So
Yeah, well,
it's costing more to produce at the plant.
I think we have a motion, a second.
We do. So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Four opposed. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move $840 to line item 001-541-501, Council of Aging salary.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Chairman, I move $40,000 to line item 001-911-570, unemployment expense.
You skipped
No,
one.
we took that.
Skipped one and we're not.
Sorry.
Interest.
Move $5,000 to line 001-750-594, interest expense.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
One abstention.
One abstention?
In the unemployment, I think,
We,
We zeroed.
Unemployment was zeroed out.
yeah, it was zeroed out.
We already zeroed unemployment out.
Yeah, that's,
That's right.
that brought that to the 310.
Mr. Chairman?
So now,
Aaron?
We voted on an amendment for the line item 001-300. Do we need to vote on
The final amount.
the final number now?
that's what so we have to vote on the source now, right?
Um,
Sources of the funds.
right, and if someone checks my math, I think you'll be voting on the total of $702,122 and $75,000 raise and appropriate and $627,122
122.
free cash.
So move the funding source for these articles as voted in Article 3 will be $627,122 from free cash and $75,000 raised and appropriate.
Second.
Any discussion?
So equals 9, 2.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Okay. Article 4,
Amy has a question.
Just to clarify before we move on, so we voted for the amendment to add, so that the final number for line item 001-300 was 366,830, but we never voted on that actual number.
That was,
It got rolled in.
It got rolled in because he was adding 50.
Okay, so
We
just
did
voting on the
310.
amendment meant we approved the line, just making sure we're following all that, okay. just-
You wouldn't shortchange.
We did the 310 and then we added.
Okay. Sorry.
Article 4, I recommend no action.
Chairman, I recommend no action on Article 4.
Second?
All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 5, no action.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend no action on Article 5.
Second?
All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 6, I would recommend that we appropriate $900,000 from free cash into the capital improvement fund. Move $900,000 from free cash into capital improvement.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I move $900,000 from free cash to the capital improvements fund.
Second?
Any discussion?
Do we get to know what it's for?
Well, that's just putting it into the account.
Right, but
Spend it
that
later.
seems like
So at that-
large number, do we?
Right here.
It'll sit.
The sheet's right here.
The next,
Right, yeah, I
the
know.
next,
That tells you
But
what
the
it's
next,
for.
that's the next
But-
motion.
Okay,
that's the same amount we put in last year, and we only had 240,000 remaining in that area when we started our capital planning this year.
So with that, so with putting in 900,000, then the balance is going to be
Um,
in the capital.
When we get to Next article will be the capital plan.
I saw that.
And I gave you the new plan tonight.
Yep, here we are.
So we are requesting tonight that you fund $563,850 and $479,850 will come from capital.
Mike, I don't see the $99,000.
Well, do you want to talk about the capital plan right now, or do you want to vote on
No,
that?
I mean, but that's not in the sheet.
What, which,
$99,000 that we moved from the school's 460.
it was increased.
Oh, okay,
It's a different figure.
got it.
Oh, they added another one.
Say again?
Yeah.
Motion to move the line.
Yeah, we didn't vote on that.
We didn't vote on it yet. And then everyone should have this from capital.
This is just put 900,000.
Correct.
I think we should do.
All right, so back to Article 6.
So after we fund everything that's being requested, we're gonna have $677,160 left in capital.
We will. But
For next spring.
for next spring, and then next spring, we're kind of going back and forth here, but next spring, you'll have to fund payments of vehicles that are in the capital improvement plan. $125,000 for a fire truck, $36,000 for a second payment on a highway Peterbilt truck, $28,000 on payment for a last payment of 5 of 5 for a backhoe, $31,000 for a 6-ton truck wheeler with a plow in the highway department, $33,000 for another vehicle in the highway department. So it adds up with the payments that we're required to make. It only leaves a small amount of money for any capital improvements. And generally, if we don't have the money in there in the spring, that's when the school department, they have to make their improvements in the summer. So it's important that we have some money there in the spring.
We can vote on. Right. That's what final vote on Article 6, and then Article 7 is the actual funding itself.
So, any more discussion on Article 6? All those in favor of taking $900,000 from free cash into this account, capital account? Opposed? Article 7.
7 is the capital improvement plan, and you have that in front of you. The first item is $102,000 for the town to implement an e-permitting software setup for hardware and the program training. And what's interesting, this will, as part of this software, online permitting, we'll be using Bluebeam to, that's the program that will accept plans And I was at Mass Highway last week with the engineers on the bike trail, and the state looked at the engineer and said, "You're going to submit your plans on Bluebeam, right?" And he, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "That's a requirement of the state from now on, is it's going to be Bluebeam. You got to submit all your plans." So this is definitely something that we need to go to. And also, when I was met with the architect that's doing the feasibility study on the town hall, he said, you know, building space is expensive, and you don't want to build space just to store paper. So the more you can get away from paper, the better, the cheaper it's going to be to construct a building. You're not just going to be wasting space to store paper. So also with this program, it'll allow contractors to file for permits from their homes. They won't have to come in. So hopefully that makes applying for a permit a lot easier, and people will be more willing to not try and do something without a permit because the process is so easy. Also, when someone files a permit with the building department, it'll automatically go to the other departments that need to check off on that permit. And then residents will be able to, if something's being built in their neighborhood, they'll be able to just go online and find out what's being built in their neighborhood rather than try and chase it down.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm familiar with it, and it really streamlines the process. You know, you as a contractor, a vendor, get a vendor number, and you can go back to day one, and all your projects that you have with that town is all there. Dates, what you paid for the permit, what you applied for, so you break it right down. It's very conclusive.
And the initial cost of 102,000, is there a maintenance cost thereafter?
There is. So the cost, the software itself is $43,125, and the hardware costs are $54,275. That's for 3 desktop computers, 4 HP standard desktop computers, 3 Surface Pros, so that inspectors can use those in the field. If they have to check on plans or something when they're out there, they can go right on their Surface Pro and check it out. And if the fire department is out on an inspection, they can sign off while they're out there. If they have an issue, they can put it right on the Surface Pro. So there will be workstations set up in the town hall so that residents or contractors that come in can go on those workstations and file their permits if they can't do it at home. So the cost for a department each year is about $6,000. So right now, the total recurring cost is $20,000 a year, approximately. We're looking at 3 Bluebeam review maintenance licenses right now. We're starting with building, Board of Health, and fire. And then we'll move on. Next year, we'll add other departments to it. It'll help out with the assessors also, because as soon as a permit's pulled, they know to be looking for that new growth to add, which they've been doing a great job. Years ago, when I first started here, our new growth was under 300,000 a year. It's now up to, you know, like 600,000 a year. So they've been doing good on that.
Are you going to load map modeling in that too?
Yes. The company that, they do a lot of towns in the area. We had 3 companies that actually came in and sat with all the department heads to go over their product. And this was the company that we decided to go with.
Who's responsible for storage and backup of the data?
They'll be doing that, the company.
So that's part of our maintenance
Yeah.
agreement?
Yep. It's full circle cloud-based storage of documents.
Bob?
What I found exciting, a member of the capital committee, was the fact that now we actually have the ability to look online to see what people are doing. You know, we all have neighbors that are putting, I had a constituent complain about somebody putting an addition on their house and found out that not a permit had ever been pulled. It's interesting that even we can go onto the system, but what I really like about it is our new building, what's his title? Building inspector.
Commissioner.
Building commissioner has experience with the system. He's used it himself. He's used it for 3 years. So we've already got one up on it. And what I also like about it is eventually it can go to other departments too. It can be utilized by other departments in town hall. It's about time we got in the 21st century. If anyone wants to take a walk downstairs and see the boxes of paper we have downstairs, this place ever catches on fire, it's going to burn for 3 days just based on the amount of paper we have in the basement.
Oh my gosh, I would
So-
like to see that.
Oh, I wouldn't like to see that, Peter, no. I wouldn't like to see it, either, although I'd like to see a new town hall.
Lucky Chief Schleicher is
Yeah. The point of the matter is, we can put a lot of this stuff on backup and not have to have all this paperwork, this nonsense everywhere and anywhere. But, yeah, it would be interesting to see how it all transpires. One of the things I've asked the town manager to do on the 18th of October is, at a selectmen's meeting, is to review our present fee structure on all departments, because it was brought up at a capital meeting that maybe we should talk about where we are. We're low in some areas, and we need to bring them up where other communities in the area are higher than we are. That'll generate some additional revenues that we can use for other stuff. But on top of that, using this software, I think it's going to really give us an opportunity to find out what really is going on. And, you know, the guy that goes and buys that window on Saturday at the Home Depot and says, I'm really supposed to have a permit for this, we can only hope that maybe they'll go online and file the permit. And, by the way, they can pay for it online, too. They don't even have to come into town hall. Everything's going to be done online, including the inspections. They can look and see where they are, the inspections are up to date. Everything will be done electronically. So it'll save some of our manpower upstairs having to go up to the window and deal with all this stuff all the time, too. So I think it's a win-win for all of us if we can make it work right. Thank you.
Amy?
I would just say, as a homeowner, that it took 5 visits to town hall to pull 1 permit. I am so excited about this. I think it's fantastic.
And the next thing, talking about getting rid of paper, I met with a woman today who does archiving of files, and she was saying, like, she went over to Foxborough and scanned in 100 boxes of old payroll records that they have to keep. But one thing that had me concerned, she said, well, the state only considers microfiche as a permanent record. I got to check with our state reps on that one. I'm like, I don't know about that. Who even has that now?
They might have them, but they can't read them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
The next item in there is every year we've been replacing 3 police cruisers each year. The chief put in the spring for 3, but we were only able to fund 2 of them. And so this year, this request is for $41,000. I believe the price has been reduced by an insurance settlement on there was an accident with one of the vehicles, and that money will be going towards defraying the cost of this purchase. Also, in the police department, they've been having problems with their HVAC unit, and we did have issues with mold in the department. And so this would be to replace that HVAC unit, $13,500. A new program that the chief is looking to purchase. It's called Cellbrite Digital Investigation Software. So this would be the software and the training, $14,350. And I didn't bring the pictures with me of the water pouring into the police station during one of the recent rainstorms. So we did have it to apply to the insurance company for some work inside the police station after that, and this $10,000 would go to some repair work on the roof drains that were leaking into the station.
Mike, who has overall responsibility of all the technology in the town to review it, see if it falls into?
Well, that's an interesting question, and talk about planning for the future. We have nobody. We have a company that we contract with that gives us service Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 hours a day. Mansfield has 2 IT people and a GIS person. Canton, that isn't a huge town. They were at the Southeast Regional Services Group meeting. I was talking to a woman today. Just the town itself, not sharing with the school, has 3 IT people. So that's, as we progress here, we've got to look at having an IT person. Right now, we just have contract out with MX Consulting, so they handle whatever they can off-site. They handle our server and any other issues, and then they're in 8 hours a week to help people with any issues they're having with their computers on-site.
How much do we pay for that? It's in a budget somewhere, but.
Yeah, it's in the communications budget. I don't have it with me, so.
Okay. Walter?
Can we hear something about this Cellbrite digital investigation software?
Evening again. So everybody has a cell phone. This is the computer that everybody uses. Has everything, your life on it. So Cellbrite basically does an analysis on that cell phone. We use a lab. We're part of Metrolec. We use a lab in Norwood in order to get a phone analyzed for anything from bullying to a stabbing that we had 2 weeks ago, to a murder case, to a domestic violence, anything at all. We take it to that lab. At the minimum, there's a 6-month turnaround time to get that information. This, we can have it in live time within an hour. Other departments have it, Mansfield, Rainham, I believe Mansfield also has it. So we're looking just to keep up with the times and get this so that we can get this information live time that will help out in investigations.
So it's actually analyzing the data on the phone, it's not doing anything external to the phone, okay.
We're talking about things like deleted text messages or, deleted emails that you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll go, how far intrinsically. I'll give you an example, though. The stabbing that we had, there was information on that stabbing that led us to a suspect, and we need that was on the phone. So that's some of the things that we'd look for.
So is that, if you took my phone, if you had this software or whatnot, took my phone that's locked, can you get anything off of it? Or this only works assuming that I cooperate and unlock it?
Yeah, there's other ways that we can go about that as well. But, usually we get cooperation.
Okay.
So.
Okay, got the message.
This is something that we've actually looked at other alternatives, and we're still looking at other alternatives to try to get funding, but they haven't been there. Things like the cable grant, other extrinsic grants that have come along, but they haven't been available. So.
And on a new topic, the other topic, the gutters, the water problem, is that just clogged gutters? Is that a defect in the?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Probably a little defective in the design, which caused gutters to get clogged, which caused the backup. So.
This is the rain and range.
Oh, I see, there's water on the floor there, huh? Yeah. You can shoot through that, right?
Literally, so it did cause quite a bit of, there was 6 inches or so of water on the roof that caused the
the water to come through. And it did have to be remediated. You know, I think the insurance company will pay for some, but, you know, we want to get some upgrades that the insurance company won't cover, so.
But there's no roof leaks or anything we need to be planning for?
Right now, no. But historically, we've had issues with the roof for the 20 years we've been in there. To be honest with you, if it wasn't for Jack Fitzgerald, we would be in some tough shape. He's just a local resident that has helped us out tremendously. That didn't cost the town a dime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The police department, the fire department, there's 2 items. One is a special hazard chassis. What this is one of the vehicles you see out back, their hazard van. The chassis is gone on that, so this is to purchase a new chassis and do the work to put that cab. The cab is fine. Put all that back onto the chassis, and portion of that money will be coming out of capital, and a portion will be coming out of ambulance. And the second item, the pumper replacement, year 1 of 5. The original estimate of $99,000 was too low. So it's going to be $26,000 more. So the committee approved adding an additional $26,000 to that. And the school department had 3 requests.
Can I just ask a question? So is that $125,000 for year 1?
Yes, it'll be the same each year.
5 years. Okay.
Yep, thanks. The school department had 3 requests. They're concerned about their backup system, and they need to do an upgrade on that. And they had a couple issues last year that were concerning to them, and so that's $60,000. The Promethean interactive displays, $101,000. That was what Tom was talking about. It was $99,000 before. But they got estimates since their last meeting, and it's going to cost $101,000. And the last item they had was they have an issue at the LG North School with pipes that are leaking that are under the floor right now, and so they're going to put them above the ceiling and have a cost estimate of $55,000 to do that work. And then the last item in capital out of the request was Keith had requested this in the spring, and it wasn't funded. $36,000 for year 1 of 5 for a Peterbilt dump truck. So the last page you have will show you that if you go to the very bottom, the total cost is $563,850, and out of capital will be $479,850, and out of ambulance reserve, $84,000. And just to let you know that the $900,000 you voted to go into capital. Now with all these items coming out of capital, the balance will be $341,000. These items, there'll be $690,540 left. Then next year, all those payments we have to make on those vehicles, $348,700. Which will leave us $341,840 in capital by the end of the May town meeting, which isn't a lot to put into capital. And as we go further and we talk about capital and stabilization, the big concern there is we have to show, one, it's good to do it, Second, we have to show an effort. We're going to be going out to borrow a large sum of money for the school window project. And, right now, that's projected to cost $360,000 a year, starting FY '20. And the better interest rate we can get, and the more, if we show we're putting money into stabilization and capital, they count capital as a stabilization account. And if you add them all. So, that's it on the plan.
So the 900,000 request for Article 6 is to add to the 341 after the payments.
The 900,000, that article is before this article, because we wouldn't have enough money to fund all these things.
So
It's to add to
after
this
the
number.
spring, it's 341.
Yeah.
That's where it will be.
After May, yep. Thanks.
Okay, yep.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to recommend the capital plan as listed here under Article 7 with $479,850 coming from the capital improvement fund and $84,000 coming from ambulance reserve fund, for a total of $563,850.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Article 8. As you know, we had talked before about converting our streetlights to LED. And so what I'm looking for here is an approval to appropriate out of free cash $42,284. This would be used by a company called Rail Term Energy that the selectmen will contract with, and they will do a GIS inventory survey of all our locations. They'll work with us on the streetlight acquisitions. They'll do a pilot project for us so we can check out certain areas of town and see what we need for lights. They'll work on the selection of equipment manufacturers and installers. They'll do a photometric design for all our roadways. A smart control consultation. They'll advise us on the use of available lighting control systems in terms of impact and safety and energy savings. They'll do an investment grade audit report of all the recommendations and the consultants that we're looking to use. And they'll work with us on the procurement services and a public information campaign, assistance with any rebates, incentive applications, grants, and project management during the construction phase of the project, and the final commissioning of all the streetlights. So the total cost for that, as I said, will be $42,284. And in the long run, we're expected to have an annual savings of around $90,000 a year on the cost of our streetlight bills once we convert all our lights over. Right now, we're talking about 961 lights in the town. And as we said before, this is just all lights that currently exist, converting them all over.
Just so I can nail this down, and I think I got the answer from you at the last meeting, but one of our earlier meetings, but you said it's just to convert the existing lights that we now have.
Correct.
Are they, when you were talking about the sort of design work and assessment that they were doing, it sounded like they were going to sort of assess our lighting needs throughout the town.
Oh.
That could be exactly the same, or it could be different. I want to nail it down. This is really just working with what we have
Right.
now, and not looking for plans or not whether we do them or not, but not authorizing planning or recommendations beyond that.
No.
Okay.
Mike, that $42,000 was in the number when you figured out free cash earlier to get to the 572?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend $42,284 come from free cash to fund the LED streetlight network program in Article 8.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 9. This is a project from the Water and Sewer Commission. I think Bernie Marshall was in to talk to you about this. This is to replace 1,100 feet of water main in Holmes Street and East Main Street, and the cost is $520,000, and this will come from their current reserve.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend $520,000 for Article 9 on the Holmes Street and East Main Street project.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Up, Aaron?
Do we need to stipulate the motion source of the funds coming from their reserve?
Out of their
Yes.
reserve fund.
Enterprise.
I would.
Okay, to be funded by the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund?
The water,
Just Water Reserve
Right.
Fund?
water retained earnings is technically, let's go.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 10 is also an article from the Water and Sewer Department, and this is to replace 6,100 feet of water main in Pine Street, extending from Well 1 to Plain Street. And this would require borrowing of $2,700,000. And the payments on the bonds will be paid back through rates.
So the town borrows, but they're,
The town authorizes the borrowing, but they'll pay it from.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the $2,700,000 for the Pine Street extension on Well 1 for Article 10 to come from the Sewer Reserve Fund.
is it
Is that the
coming?
water, isn't it?
No, that's going to be borrowed.
It's coming
borrow?
from, it's
Yeah.
borrowed.
To borrow $2.7 million for the Pine Street project.
$2,700,000, you said, right?
Aaron?
Mike, there's, I've noticed some social media activity lately about people who just got their water bills. And I thought maybe you could kind of explain, how does all this spending relate to, on the plant and on this new piping and everything that we've got to do to improve the quality of water in this town, which we got to do.
Right.
How's that passed on to the consumer?
I don't know, because that's the Water and Sewer Commission that is in charge of that, but I would assume that everything is going to be passed on. I haven't seen their plan on how much rates will have to go up each year. I've been asking for that since I started here, but I haven't received it. I'd like, see what the rates will go up each year in order to pay for each of the projects, because it all comes out of water rates.
Oh, yeah, I'm also curious about whether that's just sort of evenly distributed for everyone in town, or if your area receives a certain amount of work, do they raise the rates in that area more than they do in other areas?
No, it's all the water users. Anyone that's not using water that's on well, they're not paying for this.
Well, yes, it is, but they also, if you look at your water bill, you've already seen it. That you have what you're being charged for water, and then you're being charged a certain amount for their capital improvements, or whatever they happen to call it. That's this, and other similar things. And that is based on a formula, and they tell you on the bill, I can't quote it for you exactly, but they tell you it's a certain percentage of if you consumed a lot of water, you're paying more in the reserve fund that month. If you consume a little bit of water, you're paying less. Because it's a percentage of what your water bill is that they then tack on to go into this separate sort of capital improvements, or whatever you were going to call it, fund.
So, Mike, do they have to go to a state body first to say, we're gonna do this, which is gonna cost X, and therefore the rates are gonna go up Y, and
No.
get approval, or they can just?
They can do that themselves. They would have their engineers do a study of what projects they plan on doing in the next 20 years, and what the rates will have to go up, or when the rates will start going down based on when
I
those.
just thought water rates were regulated.
No.
No.
No, the state, when, they do the certification of free cash every year, if they thought retained earnings were getting too high, they'd make an issue about it. But no, they don't regulate what they charge. Only if they saw something like that, you had a lot more in retained earnings than you should. And, generally, a water and sewer operation should have 15% in retained earnings to cover any emergencies.
I know when we talked about this article the last time, Pete, I think, brought up that this road had recently been paved. Is this something that, like, we get the water department and the highway department, like, chatting over a cup of coffee, like, hey, we're gonna pave that road next year, so if you wanna tear it up, maybe could we do it now, or is that?
It wasn't, well, it was chip sealed. It wasn't like repaved. You remember the pebbles?
It wasn't a quality job by any means, so it wasn't very expensive.
Right.
Right.
Well, they do coordinate. That's why Keith has been pressuring the water department to get going on that water main on Reservoir Street, because he wanted to repave that section of Reservoir, so he's been on him every year to get going on that. Unfortunately, they didn't put a sewer main down there when they did the water, but can only suggest sometimes, but.
So have we suggested maybe doing something else while they've got the road dug up? Is there any reason to put sewer pipes in down Pine Street connecting to Wayne, or?
No.
No. Okay. And so my next question was, will this be a repaving of the road or just paving of a trench?
Repaving side to side once they do the work. It'll sit for a year, like Reservoir Street, once they're done there. That'll sit for a year to settle, and then they'll do the repaving.
Bob?
A whole year.
Do you live?
I have to suffer a year with that?
The pipes, I think, were 1903 and 1908. Paul, remember? No? But I think, based on what I've seen, a few years ago, one of our previous supervisors brought in a valve. You guys might remembered it? And the valve was like a 6-inch valve, and it had a hole about that big in it. You can see a lot of that on Pine Street. And I think a lot of the dirty water is coming from my side of town, because when they're flushing, everywhere, it's drawing on that old pipe and creating the problem. The one thing they didn't do this year that I'd asked them to consider doing is this, they call it pigging. I think we've talked about this before. It's a process where they send in a slushy mixture of ice, and it scores the inside of the pipes and cleans out a lot of the old manganese and iron and all the crap that's in the pipes. They're going to have a demonstration of that. A community close to us, and I forget what town it is, but they promised to give me a call so I can go watch it. And what they do is they go from one hydrant to the next, and they just blow this material through it under high pressure. And it's all, you can drink the water as soon as they're done. There's nothing in it. It's just a slushy solution that goes through and goes out the next fire hydrant, and all this stuff falls out with it, all this buildup. And I'm encouraging them, and I hope that you guys can help me in the spring do it also. There's nothing worse than building a brand-new water plant and putting nice, clean water through dirty pipes. It just doesn't make sense. And there's some areas of town that we have to address where we don't have to replace the pipes, but we have to clean them up. So I hope in the spring we can talk them into looking at that. But getting back to the water bills, mine actually went down $3. And talking to my daughter, she got a $900 one, which is to the other extreme. But it sounds like anyone who has sewerage got hit the worst, and that's what water didn't. So there's got to be a reason for it. I don't know what it is. I haven't. You have a reason? Oh, good. But anyway, you can call my daughter up, please, and tell her to stop yelling. But it's a lot of money, and I hope in the spring we can clean up some of these other ones. But I honestly believe that once they do Pine Street, I think it's going to make a major improvement in the whole system, because those pipes are very, very old. Home Street's another one. It's just never been done right, so hopefully they'll get straightened out. But hopefully you got that answer to the question.
Well, anyone that has storage, the cost of the renovation and expansion of the storage treatment plant is just kicking in now. So the assessment to Norton for our share of that will be driving up some of the sewer costs until they get more users to.
We have $700.
I don't want to make any other comment about why her sewer bill's going up. I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh my God.
That's.
We did.
All right, now where are we at?
11.
Article 11.
We're at 11 now?
Did we vote on 10?
We didn't.
Okay, 11, this is just so that, as you know, the West Main Street Sewer Project needs a pump station, and the pump station's going to be put on Housing Authority property, and this just authorizes the sewer department to acquire an easement from the Housing Authority for that pump station.
Just recommend article if it's written.
Yeah, just move to recommend.
No, there's no amount.
Recommend article 11 as written.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous?
Article 12, I would move no action.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Right now, we don't have any information from our attorneys yet. Our attorneys have been studying the title on the Mansfield sewer line that will be used for the multi-use path, and they're still doing, if something comes before town meeting, I guess you could change your vote of no action, but right now, I don't have anything to present.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend no action on article 12.
Second?
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous?
And Article 13 is the same thing. We've been waiting for months to get the final 100% design from the engineers. We do have some money that we set aside previously for easements, so that will have to do for now. But we don't know yet from the engineers what the final easements are and the size of the easements, so I'd move no action right now.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend no action on article 13.
Second?
All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 14. My recommendation would be to appropriate $15,000 from free cash. What we're looking to do is, where the water and sewer department is, the property behind them, we want to look at putting a solar facility there. We did it on the Hill Street landfill, and it was very successful. And I think I had mentioned to you before about some of the credits that we received. And just a reminder again, I mean, this obviously was in the summer, but the street lights received a credit, $12,000. The municipal center here, $6,000. The police station, $4,000. Norton High School, $12,000. Norton Middle School, $12,000. Salmonese, $6,000. And the Norton Water Department, $7,800. So just in that 1 month, our credits were $60,548. So obviously, it's been beneficial. What we did the last time, we hired a consultant that worked with us on the RFP process, and they analyzed all the submittals, one, to see who was legitimate and who wasn't legitimate, and was worth giving the bid to, and two, which proposal provided the most money to the town, and the best benefit to the town. So with the $15,000, I'd be looking to hire this company, Meister Consulting Group, again, to work with us on that. And also, we'll need some money to have an engineer drop or a surveyor drop an easement plan where the solar panels will go. This hopefully will be another way to generate some more revenue for the departments, and we'll take whichever way the consultant determines it's better, if we take the credits or if we just take money from them. On the landfill right now, we lease the land. They pay us $80,000 a year for that. They pay us $40,000 for a pilot, and plus what we're getting in credits every year, around $300,000. So it's been very beneficial.
The way this is worded, the first thing that's going to be asked on the town meeting floor is, where is this going to be? Because people are sensitive. Could you specify in here, leaving it as it is, but just saying where the location is that you're considering? Because that's going to be foremost in everybody's mind. I think it's a good idea, but with this, they wouldn't know where it was going to be, or that we were giving them carte blanche to look anywhere.
Yep.
And it'd be good if we could,
Okay.
tell them where it's going to be in the article to start with, because I think that would put to rest a lot of uneasy minds.
Save us all half hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had the same question, but I have an additional question, which is whether or not we've ever looked into having any solar panels on any municipal buildings in town.
I'm reluctant to put them on the roofs. What we are looking at, and would require us to go out for an RFP also, is parking lots. Which parking lots? I know the police department is one we're looking at, just not sure if there's enough sun, because the parking lot's behind the building and all the sun's on the south and west sides. But yeah, that would be the next thing we would look at.
So this is the Slattery property that we purchased back in the late 90s. There was a developer who was going to go in and put in, I believe, 14 homes, and town had first option on the 61A, and we took advantage of it and we bought the property. And then what happened was we didn't have quite enough money to buy it, so the water department at that time needed a new facility. It already had the bond on it. So the plan was to have them buy a portion of it, and we were going to get the rest of it. And our grand plan was to put in recreational fields. Of course, that never happened. That takes money. We don't have any money. So over the years, it's been growing and growing and growing. It's getting, becoming a forest again. And we recommended, after seeing what happened, the success we had at the landfill, it seemed appropriate to use that land for this purpose, and we have no idea how much they can put on it. I've met with 2 different companies who have already shown an interest on the property and just walked through it, and they have no idea if they can use 5 acres or 20 acres or 30 acres. They have no idea how much land is really available there. And that's what this is all about, to find out what that's about, and then go out for the RFP to see if we can take advantage of this new technology. Mike indicated earlier that our electric rates are going to be going up. This is a great opportunity for us to bring them back down again. We can negotiate a deal and have, offset some of our costs again. Probably this could even be bigger than the landfill we have on the landfill. So I think it's important for us to look at it and pick up as much as we can. I was actually surprised at talking to the conservation director. There's like 8 cranberry bogs in the rear of this property, and she actually said that 3 of them were actually suitable for this purpose, which opens up a lot more acres than we had originally planned. So hopefully we can get this thing going, and we can make some extra money and make some electricity at the same time and make it all work. So the land's been sitting there since the late 90s. We haven't done anything with it. It's a 20-year obligation. Who knows, maybe in 20 years the town will have some money to do something else with it. But in the meantime, we should take advantage of it and try to make some money, some extra fees.
Walter?
So before you go, Bob, I'm not as familiar with the history of that. It makes sense to me to put the solar collectors on places like the landfill that we know we have no other use.
Yeah.
Does this Slattery farm area have any other potential use?
Well, we had talked about putting fields down there at one point. There are some vernal pools in there. It was a landfill, is what it was. It was mined at one time. And that's why houses like on Hodges Street, like Sherry Cohen's house up there on top of the hill, is so high, and everything else is lower behind it. It has a beautiful pond out there that we do use for fishing derbies and stuff. But the original, right now, there's no intent to use it for anything. The day hopefully will come where we can use it for something else. Maybe it turns into a park someday. I don't know. But right now, this might put a Band-Aid on for 20 years, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. Well, whoever around can figure out what they're going to do in 20 years and develop it a different way. The whole plan was just to keep the houses out of it in the first place. We didn't want the additional new houses. Back then, I don't think it was a comprehensive 40B permit. I think it was just a housing development that was going to go in there. So we got creative and bought the land, but how many acres is that, Mike? I think a total of over 70 acres.
I think it's 77.
77 acres?
There's a lot of land there.
And it has a main trunk line that goes through it. I don't know if that makes any difference or not, but they have an easement. National Grid has an easement that goes right through there, so connecting to the power, I don't know if it's going to be any big deal or not, but, I think it's just, in the near future, just trying to generate some additional cash and revenues as best we can. And like I said, I remember when there's nothing there, and now I went down there with these guys, and they got trees that are 20, 30 feet tall that grew over the years, so, it's just going to get more and more forested unless we do something anyway. So hopefully this will be a solution for the near future anyway.
Mike, just a question. When does the energy credit program expire?
I don't know.
That's a big part of the success
Yeah.
of this program, and I know it's done through the legislature, so.
All I know is when we were looking at the electric rates,
I know.
the big problem is it used to be like 2% of your electric bill was attributable to the state trying to become more of a green community. Now it's 17% of the electric. That and the lack of the gas lines coming into the state are driving it up. But
So just following up a little bit on what Bob said, kind of a temporary, 20-year commitment. Whose responsibility is it at the end of 20 years to get rid of them if they're no longer viable?
they have to put a bond up so that they have to take them down, and if they don't, then we go after their money.
Mr. Chairman,
Steve?
I recommend that we transfer $15,000 from free cash to retain a consultant for the solar electric procurement.
Second?
Are we voting on the wording or just the amount?
No.
The amount.
The amount, okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Article 15. This, down by Kennedy Center, obviously, we have an issue with people parking their cars and not having the ability to regulate what they do and how many cars they park, and it's become a big issue this year. And by adopting the state statute, Chapter 148, Section 56, it allows us to set rules and regulations to regulate open-air parking facilities. And that's what this would do. And the selectmen would work to promulgate regulations to implement it. And it would allow us to have some enforcement and it would just be larger lots. You know, if people are parking more than 10 cars, then we'll be able to regulate that, and the police can have some enforcement power. Right now, it's really hard to do that where we haven't adopted the statute and implemented the regulations.
So,
Aaron?
Mike, are we talking about like the housing complexes along 140, the park cars for events in Xfinity, or is there a particular?
Anyone in town that down there is parking cars in Norton, they would be subject to these regulations.
And what sort of regulations and enforcement are needed? Like, what's the problem we're trying to solve?
The problem is that we need people to submit a plan showing how many cars are going to be parked on the lot, where they're going to be parked, and then have the fire department go out and make sure that there's enough room for them to get in and get out if there's an emergency. We want to enforce no drinking in any of those lots is another concern. The safe access in and out of those lots, that'll be the different things that we'll be looking at. So cars aren't backing out on a 140, that there's a way for them to get around and get out.
Is there a fee?
More than likely, we will put in, when we do the bylaws, we would put in some sort of fee. You know, they're making a lot of money on it. We're not going to kill anyone, but there should be some fee that they pay just for our inspectors to have to go out there and inspect it and take in the permit and everything else. There's a cost.
Is it a one-time fee or an annual fee?
It would be annual.
So related but not related, just something I've noticed, those apartments that benefit from the golf tournament, which is now every other year, is there regulation on how many easements onto and off of, what's that, 140? Because they're going, you know,
I know.
here where the two driveways are and everywhere in between.
Yeah, I don't know if the state can go backwards, but the state, it's a state road, so the state is in charge of street opening, and they have to issue street opening permits, but I don't know if they can go back and now take it away from someone if they issued it in the past. But they regulate anyone that wants to build along 140, they have to file a plan with the state showing where their street opening is going to be.
But I guess in a sense, that's what I'm asking, because you got the two official paved entrances.
Oh, okay.
And then you got a bazillion
Just
ins
coming,
and outs.
not on the pavement?
Not
just
on the
okay.
pavement.
Yeah, that would be something that we would regulate as part of this. And also, if someone has a certain amount of cars, if they have a large lot, we may require them to have a police officer there directing cars in and out, so.
So on their own private property, you're asking?
But those cars are coming out onto town ways.
I guess, okay, that's, I don't know, I think it's a little bit,
Well,
I'd like to see the history.
Xfinity
There's been
sent-
a lot of problems.
There's been huge problems. Huge problems with, we have people that live in that area, and we have people drinking, and people going to the bathroom right in the open. You know, this, part of this would be if you have so many cars, you have to have a porta potty. I mean, the same, Xfinity, we just don't let the cars pour out of Xfinity, right? Look how many police officers we have there. So it's the same.
Well, it seems like, you know, it's the old saying, you know, camel's tent, nose under the tent, and then it expands and expands, so.
Well-
But one thing I would just note, paragraph 2, I don't know, does it make sense to deduct the MBTA and put GATRA in its place? I know you mentioned about,
This is a state,
so you
it's
can't.
part of the, no, it's part of the state law. That's the way it's written.
That doesn't, makes no sense.
That's obvious.
I mean,
Well,
we're
we-
talking about GATRA putting,
The town pays to MBTA.
Under the statute.
MBTA district, we pay every year to the MBTA, so.
So here
Yes,
you're accepting Chapter 148, Section 56, and as part of that, the MBTA got in there that they're exempt. It's just something that's part of the law.
I don't know.
I'm with you.
Mr. Chairman,
Aaron?
I feel, I think I kind of see where Rick is heading with this, and I tend to agree. I think that by the time we end up adding up a fee and a porta potty and hiring a cop to get in and out, it's just going to be impractical.
Oh,
for
no,
anyone to be able to use
no
it,
way.
right? I mean,
These people make huge money.
$20, $30 a car.
Oh, they make
You figure
huge-
some of those
huge money.
houses have
For every concert.
80 to 100 cars. They got a lot of money. But that's beside the
Because one of the concerns everyone has is the bylaw, I mean, the law, in order to be a non-criminal disposition of if someone's violating it, the maximum you can fine them is $300 per occurrence. And they're saying, these people are making so much money,
They'll just pay the 300.
they might just give you the 300 and,
Behind the houses?
no, the miniature golf course, and then you have businesses down there. They're parking a lot of cars. You know, and the biggest complaints we get here is on concert nights, the traffic out on 140 and people walking to parking lots, and so there's huge lots down there. We're not looking at regulating a mom and pop that's parking like 6 or 7 cars in their yard. This is really for, you know, we're not going to go busting people that are just parking a couple cars. You know, we're going to go after, make sure the people that have large lots are following all the safety regulations.
Well,
Well, it doesn't say.
Yeah, it doesn't stipulate here whether I'm parking 5
says
cars
open
or 100.
No, because the law, accepting this law allows the selectmen to establish. They'll have to then
Oh, so
write
they,
up rules and regulations.
so they can tighten this up or relax it or do what,
I mean, an example is like the miniature golf course. We're constantly battling with that guy because he has a permit to park X amount of cars, and he parks 20 more than he's supposed to, and he parks them right up against the fence of the Norton Estates or whatever it is there, and then people are cutting through Norton Estates. So it's just a constant hassle, and this is a way to put some regulation into that.
so the purpose of this is safety.
Correct.
Okay.
I know it says Board of Selectmen on the bottom of this, but honestly, this is the first time I've heard about it, to be honest with you. I'm not totally convinced that this is, my opinion is, those people living in that area get all the crap, they get all the traffic, they get all the congestion. If they want to make a few bucks, I don't have a problem with that. However, there have been some concerns in this, especially this year, about public safety, bathrooms. Everybody's complaining about everybody going everywhere. And so we have to put some restrictions in place, but I can assure you, again, as we look at this, I'm thinking that mom and pop that might have like 8 cars there. I don't think this should apply. I mean, it should be for the bigger venues like the miniature golf, you know, something like that that makes sense. But I think for the most part, you know, I think the selectmen are going to have to look this over too, make a determination, because again, this is the first time I'm seeing it. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. And I think, I know something that's probably been worked on for a while, but we need to find out more about it.
Yeah, I know the guy who's the first house that you'd hit coming into Norton, he has a porta potty. He's set up pretty good for this, but, you know, to slam him like this, I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, and I have heard this, don't know any directly about it, but a lot of most of those apartment houses that are along there, I remember when they were built, and they got divided up, different people bought different ones, and you've got a lot of people living there who probably aren't getting a damn thing out of the parking, because it's the owners of the buildings that will say, we're gonna bring them in, do the parking. And this is what I've heard.
Yep.
And they have complaints about all these cars and everything else that's going on. They rent the apartments, or some of them aren't actually condoized now, and others are still apartments.
Right.
So that's another issue, that it isn't, there are people who living there, at least some people living there, if what I've been told is correct, they're not the ones who are making the money on the parking. It's people who own the buildings.
I was just gonna go back what Mike said about the mini golf. I mean, if there's already a law or an ordinance in place, why are we ready to expand with another one?
There-
If he's parking,
There isn't a law.
so,
That's
but
the
you said he
problem.
has but you just said he has so many spots
That-
for his license.
Right, and then
So if he goes over it, then you fine him.
No, we don't have that now.
So we don't have the-
We haven't adopted this statute, and he knows that.
Well,
Yeah.
so,
He knows that, so he
So what-
keeps ignoring us. He's the reason we're doing this.
so what's the purpose of giving him 20 spots if you know it's not, you can't be held accountable?
Because we shut him down and he ignores us. There's nothing we can do. We haven't adopted the law, and he knows that.
All right.
That these people are not stupid. They're taking advantage of the town and telling us where to stick it, and we're spending, our police, fire, building inspector, health agent are spending inordinate amount of time down there dealing with these people. It's just been unbelievable.
Amy?
All right.
I guess that I would just recommend that for town meeting night, we might want to have some idea of what this might look like moving forward, because I think you're going to get a lot of questions, and just saying, we're not sure yet, is going to get it probably shot down on the floor.
Right, it's kind of the number, are you picking on everybody, are you
I
picking?
mean, if
Right.
it's a safety issue,
Major
I'm all for it.
people,
Won't have decided that.
how do you figure that out? Aaron?
Mike, so I think part of what's tough here is that the article sort of asks for permission to go do whatever you deem necessary. The Board of Selectmen will decide at a later date. Can we get more of an outline as to exactly what would end up being in place so that we know what we're voting on? Can we get some parameters as to the number of cars, what the amount of the permit will be?
Well, Bob, between now and town meeting, are you guys meeting?
I mean, I'm the first of 5 that are aware of this. I don't think the board's even aware of this proposal, so I'm not sure where we're gonna go with that.
Then, is this something that is better for the spring?
Well, that's what,
Before,
is it a concern?
as we,
Now and-
because in the winter, there's nothing happening, there's no golf, there's no concerts, there's nothing.
That would give you time to
Sure.
propose,
And just,
make a proposal.
so the selectmen can kind of
Yep.
hone it down a little better. Because, people will eat this a lot. They'll spend hours on this.
August 2020.
Paul?
I just think we're building this into more than we need to, or that it's intended. This is what's known as enabling legislation. I mean, it's not meant to. The state is not wanting to tell the people in the town what you'll have for parking regulations. They'll leave it up to the governance of the towns. I wish the state would do that more often in a lot of things. This is just something we have to allow the Board of Selectmen or whatever body in this town to develop rules of this sort. Now, whether they come under zoning and would have to come before a town meeting when they're finally formulated about parking, I don't know. Maybe not. It sounds to me like the selectmen, it says that it shall be authorized to promulgate regulations, which means they can put the regulations in. But it gives to the selectmen the authority to operate in this area. And apparently we have to get the state's permission. We have to adopt this, or the selectmen can't do a damn thing. And that's what Bob was just telling you, that they couldn't do anything. This is, I'm not looking, and I don't think we should be looking for how big is the thing going to be or how small, what are the limits that are going to be placed on it? Nobody knows yet. The selectmen haven't looked at it. It's not our job in any case. This is, do we think it's a good idea to do what we have to do in terms of state regulations, pass this thing, which will then allow the Board of Selectmen, if it deems necessary, to make regulations appropriate to whatever circumstances is being, are there. And it's nothing more than that. And I think probably, given what I've been hearing tonight about the kinds of problems that are faced, and for between April and October every year, not in the winter, you're quite right, and there might be other issues too. I don't even know, but it seems to me that this is something that leaves the authority to deal with this in local hands, in town hands, in the Board of Selectmen's hand, and not to have this allowed at all, and having people just say, well, you can't stop us from doing this because you haven't passed the law that allows you to do this, is wrong. We should give to the selectmen the authority to do this if they see fit.
Right, they don't have to do anything, but as you said, this gives them the authority to do it. And if it's voted in October, it allows November, December, January, February, until we get to the concerts in the spring. It gives the selectmen time to have meetings, public meetings, as it said, that have to be posted, that people can attend, and develop the rules and regulations. It's similar, this is how it works with, you did the Veterans Work-Off program recently. You had to adopt the statute that allow you to establish the Veterans Work-Off program, and then it was up to the selectmen to promulgate the rules to govern that. Same with the Senior Work-Off program. And that's what this does. It just accepts the statute. It doesn't put anything into place, and the selectmen have to have public meetings in order to do that.
So the selectmen on their own, without adopting this, can't start investigating that?
Well, they can, but...
They can't do anything.
But they can't do anything, but it's the same thing. They can investigate it, get their information, and then come back in the spring and say,
Well, vice versa, if you look at it a different way, the selectmen could do that. You could vote it in May, and then after the town meeting, you could have, the Board of Selectmen could just change it again. And year after year, they could change it again. I mean, you don't have a say each year. The selectmen, when they promulgate the rules, they don't have to go back to town meeting. So it's the same difference.
I just see such an open-ended thing is just gonna drag on for hours, but that's me.
Or no one will say a word and we'll just pass it. You never know.
That is true.
It's weird. Okay.
But with that said, do I hear any motion?
Yeah, somebody gonna make a motion?
I was gonna recommend no action. I was gonna recommend no action.
Well, we can vote on that.
I see Paul's point,
I'll move that we recommend Article 15.
but
As written.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion?
At town meeting, there will be.
Seeing none. All in favor?
Sure.
I see.
The warrant.
Opposed?
I see your point, Paul.
16. 16 is amendments to the town's personnel bylaws. This is adding a new position. If you look at the job classification, I think you have it in your packet. Payroll and benefits administrator. This is, a very confidential position, and we just feel that it would be better served to be in this, under the wage and salary plan, not under any influence of any other union or organization. And we've added a salary down the bottom of a range of $42,000 to $58,000. And then all the other positions in the wage and salary plan, we've upped the lower ends and the higher ends to keep people for 3 years. We should be covered. We won't have to raise the parameters anymore on the higher end. And some of the lower ends, we're just not going to get people at those salaries. As I told you before, they can't get people at $40 an hour. Minimum wage is going up to 15, and to have positions that are 15 or below, it gets tough. And I was talking, we were talking about information technology. When I was talking to those other towns and looking at our salary ranges here, and they're like, oh, we pay our people $100,000. I'm like, oh. But, we just can't get there. And I know when we hired our planning director recently, someone from another town said, well, what are you paying? And I told them what we're paying. Like, how did you get somebody? But, we're just trying to keep up.
So without a calculator,
Three.
this going up 5%, 3%?
Over the whole life, it's 3%. I think we plugged in at 3% a year. Whether it goes up 3% a year, it may not, but just the maximum.
Mike, first of all, are all these titles, do they have somebody filling
No.
them today?
No.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is, and I look at the IT director, you're preparing potentially for something down.
Yeah, that's been in there. The IT director, we don't have anyone. We don't have an assistant water and sewer superintendent. The custodian, we don't have.
All right. And then, is anyone currently bumping up against any of these ranges, either on the higher end or?
On the higher end. Not yet. This should keep for 3 years. I don't think anyone will hit that higher end.
And then my last one, what's the source of the data? Do we have like a salary survey type?
To develop these salaries? No, these were just established. years ago, and they've just been going up by the percentages that all the union contracts.
And there's a job description behind every title?
Some of them there are, some of them there aren't. You know, we don't have, some of them aren't even filled. That's one of the things.
How do we know, comparing apples to apples with
Other
next to
towns.
us with that position?
Just, well, the ones that are filled, we know we have job descriptions on, so.
When would these salary ranges become effective?
Effective on the date, the town meeting, once you vote them at town meeting.
Okay, so is there anyone who would be immediately impacted?
No, no one, as I said earlier, no one's up to the limit or anything, so everyone's salaries are already set.
So nobody's
Sure.
at like the minimum right now that would move up? Because I know that we just set the Parks and Rec salary range at Springtown meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And, I just expand on this. Can you, town our size, we don't have a DPW department. So is that something we're gonna,
It's been tried.
okay.
It failed at, it was a recommendation of the last charter committee, and it failed at town meeting.
Really should have one. For a town our size.
I'm arguing with you.
All right.
But it's been tried. It never got through.
It's just amazing we don't have one, so. Okay.
It'd be
Mr.
smoother.
Chair, I recommend Article 16 as written.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Did you say?
9:26. So tired. Can I just do it right here?
Article 17 is a petition article. This article requires that the town put all salaries, all contracts on the town website.
All, everything within the contract on the website, so all detail, all,
So can I just do this from here?
no.
No.
So,
My chair's not really working, but okay.
Well, hold on a sec.
You can
Mike,
stay
would
there.
you like to just go through yours, all your other ones, and then we can, either way,
Doesn't matter, you can just keep going the way you are.
So,
all right, I guess stay there.
So we've talked a lot about in different articles tonight, modernizing the way that we're doing things, modernizing, Chief Clark talked about it, Bob's come up and talked about it, the building inspector's office wants $100,000 for it. So a lot of other towns are doing this. It is one of those things where we should already have these contracts digitally anyway. So it should not be a lot of heavy lifting to put them on the website where they're public records, people can have immediate access to them.
But not being an IT person, how do they get there and who maintains them? That would be my question.
Be a webmaster. An outfit as small as we are at the VFW, maintain our website costs us $150 a month because we have things you can buy and going off and on. We can't do that ourselves. We contract somebody to do it for us. And now you're probably talking 50 contracts you'd have to put on there, because I don't know how many the school has. We have about 12 on the town side, give or take. And the schools probably get equally as many, if not more. So you may be talking 50 contracts to be put on and updated. That's not easy lifting, to
so,
maintain a website.
so, given what part of the town
It's that.
is out there?
It's that position.
Who maintains
It's
that?
that position that we don't have.
Who
One that we've had
maintains,
on the
Who
list.
maintains our website? Is that
well,
the contract
the,
people?
no. The website itself was developed by Virtual Town Hall, And then each department manages their own section of the website.
So anything that needs updated, and that's someone within the department that has to,
Well, yeah, they update their own, and Charlene Fisk is the one that updates any main stuff on the website.
so who would load these 50 contracts?
I don't, we would either have, well, Charlene isn't available to do it, so it would have to be my assistant or the selectman's secretary, whoever.
So we don't have an HR director or anything like that. So
That's the next-
someone has to be responsible to make sure
As soon as we
these,
have office
these
space,
are
we
are
need a new-
valid and they're.
But they're also not
the right
changing
word.
daily.
Huh?
Right, they
It's-
change every couple of years, every
Right.
3 years, or whatever.
Well,
Not necessarily. Well,
Well, it's
according
a-
to what the length of the contract.
Right, but a lot of times it's 3, but.
One thing to remember is that for much of what we have here, you'll have 3 or 4 contracts in one department, because the contracts are horizontal. There's a clerical, there's a CINA A, there's a CINA B, there's this, that, and the other. There is no contract that is just limited to highway, or just limited to, unless everybody is doing exactly the same thing. So you don't have department contracts, you have
No, they're,
contracts that go.
We have
And so every department, if you want it by department, they're going to have to post the contract for,
Twice or
that
3 times.
each of their employees
Right.
is under.
well, I mean, the way that Mansfield manages this is they have a page of contracts that they maintain that is just for so if you're looking for something, you can go in through, I don't remember if it's the town clerk or the town manager or whatever, or procurement, or whatever they want to call it, but there is a page for all of their contracts.
But
And
the-
it's in one place. They don't have them broken out by department. They don't have them duplicated 100 times across the website. They just have one page where it's one person's responsibility to maintain current contract information.
But it's got to be a lot more than a page. If you're talking about all
Well,
the
it's a web
contract-
page that has links to each contract as a
Right.
PDF.
Okay, and that would run from individual contracts to group contracts or union contracts.
So if you want to see the superintendent's contract, it could be there. If you want to see the, police officers' union contract, it's there. All of them are there.
We do now, in terms of at least amounts paid by the town to individuals, have a complete record of that, only it always comes out a year late.
Right.
Well, not a year late, it comes out in the annual town report, but
Right.
that comes out in April of the following year. And in there, you can find everybody that's earned earned $20 from the town.
Right.
That's in there.
Right.
So we do have public information in terms of what each individual who works at all for the town is paid.
Well, we have salary information,
But we have salary, nothing beyond that, the other terms in terms of benefits or conditions of work or anything else like that is often found in contracts, particularly union contracts.
So, dumb question, what's the length of a contract on average?
3 years.
No, I mean,
Page number.
size-wise. 5 pages, 100 pages? Yeah.
Probably like 30 pages, I would say.
So, our website we pay for a certain capacity? Or, because I can't imagine we're unlimited.
Right.
So then, do we know how many contracts you're looking to?
He wants all of them, it says.
I understand that, but how many would that be?
I think the issue is that I have no idea.
Well,
I guess,
from my perspective on the finance committee, I'm looking for what the impact is, so.
Absolutely, I think that's a great question, but I think until we look at what it involves. I don't,
If I can jump in here, I mean, a PDF version of a 30-page Word document is going to be a couple hundred kilobytes.
Right.
it's not a big.
But then how many of those do you
Multiply it by
have?
100, you're talking a megabyte. It's nothing. So space is not a concern here.
I think the concern's accuracy. Who's going to control the document and who's going to control it? You can't have 5 or 6 people, pulling contracts out, putting new ones in. You got to have one person that controls that. It's personal. That's
Well,
personal
that's
to me.
the benefit in Mansfield, because they have 2 IT people.
I mean, that's real important stuff.
Absolutely.
You put in someone's contract and that's
I
it's
can't say
important.
it has to be managed by
mean-
whatever.
No, but
person,
it
but-
really.
I don't think,
but
I don't think it's, that bad of an idea to do that. It's just gonna be time, and it would be nice if we had IT people to
Yeah.
do it, but it's not a bad idea.
Well, right at the moment, the way, excuse me.
Go ahead, you started.
I will always refer to Paul.
Right at the moment, the way this article is written, he's got to do it.
Right.
Because the chief administrative officer of the town shall make accessible electronically, blah, 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 blah. Who's the chief administrative officer in this town? Either the chair of the Board of Selectmen or you. And I think it's you.
And that means he has to do it for the school, too.
And that, you can't do. You can't do that and everything else that you have to do.
Well,
So that's a language, that's a pretty easy language fix, to say that he shall perform or assign to be performed. But, Mike, do these, we already have these contracts in digital format, I'm assuming, right? I would think that this already exists as a Word document or or already in PDF. It's there.
I know that most of ours probably are, and I would imagine, I don't know, I'll have to check with the school department, but we have them in hard copy in the town accountant's office, so they'd be scanned and put on.
If they're already in, if they are already in digital format, you have possession of the PDF to create a town webpage and add those, it's less than a day's work.
You could probably get a high schooler to volunteer to do it for you. They're probably better at it than anyone in this room.
Copy and link, get that right. You copy and paste links immediately.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's,
Walter?
I mean, I think if you ask the selectmen, they'd say that's a good idea, and they'd recommend it be done.
So what's the situation now? What's the accessibility of that information already?
If someone wants to see a contract, they'd make a public records request, and then town accountant would, if they wanted to see, they asked me clerical contract, they'd make a request, the town accountant would see how many pages it is and let them know, well, it's 30 pages, it's 5 cents a page, so,
Has anyone ever requested one?
yeah,
So it does happen.
yeah.
Is the timing, is there a lengthy turnaround if you request a contract?
It's
Take
10,
a week to get it?
it could, it all depends what the request is, Usually, if someone's making a request, they send in a letter and they say what they would want to see, and then we tell them, okay, it'll cost X amount. Well, then you got to go see how many pages everything is, and then you let them know it's 5 cents a page, and then it will be a half hour of this person's time at X. So once we get your check, then we'll make the copies, and you can come pick them up.
Or we could just put them on.
Right.
And save a whole bunch of salary in the back and forth.
Since the time this was written, have you been able to give any kind of preliminary look at additional cost this would,
It's just time.
just time?
Yeah.
time for the initial, but should be relatively easy to maintain?
Well, more than likely later, all the contracts, although they technically all end at the same time, they're not all settled at the same time, so.
Right.
So, sorry, so every time a new contract is signed, you have to go replace that PDF?
Right.
Take 2 minutes
Yeah.
to
So it's not like,
pull one out, new one in?
obviously to do it originally, you've got a lot of contracts, so it's the time to do that.
Right.
But later on, it'd just be one at a time.
There is, you do have to account for sort of the communication with the, various departments to gather the contracts, so that would take some, that would be some time and effort at the beginning. But still all told, to get this totally up and running, I would think that, a moderately competent system would be able to get this done in under a couple of days. If not total, but like total time invested
That's the group.
to get it done.
Those four, they're the one.
There's a week to hear back from people. Get copies for everything, but should be pretty easy to establish.
Oh, they're generating? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Does excuse me, I have a question. How many hits does Mansfield get on their site, people looking for salaries? Information. We can't even get people to come to our open meetings here worrying about salaries. I don't know how, I'd just like to know. And we're gonna have to spend money for this. I'm all for it. I think we should have freedom of information. That's the best thing we could do. But how much useful is gonna be and who's gonna use it? And how many hits will we get? There's gotta be some logic to something we wanna do. Just because everybody in the world is in the cloud, there's gotta be some use for the cloud. If the information is useful, who's gonna use it?
It'll be useful to other towns that are doing salary surveys.
I mean, it's a great idea to have everything digitized and go paperless for everything. I like that idea. And I like the idea to go on a website. But how many people actually go on there and really care about specific salaries?
I don't know if they keep track of that.
Now you have to pay for it and wait a week or so, whatever. If you click, you may get interest that you never had before.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think we should do it, but I think we should get.
Well, it's an unknown.
I like the idea. This is a good segue into hiring the IT guy. It's a great segue to do it right.
Job security for the IT guy that we need.
Well, you need an IT guy. Well,
I don't think this actually costs us anything, though. I mean, we've already got salaried positions in place that we pay to do this, right?
Nothing is
They'd be available to do this. It doesn't take
Nothing
that
is
much
free.
time, so they just do it.
Okay.
It doesn't, it's not gonna cost us any more on the website.
but it's gonna cost somebody to have to do it. Okay, you got one-person departments around here who are gonna have to do their department. They're the only person in that department, yet they got 3 or 4 people working for them. Okay? Who's gonna do the schools? Are they gonna do it themselves? Are they gonna access the website themselves and put their, how many people are in the school department?
Someone at the school department would have to just send over to, say, Mike's assistant, we're
Why?
nominating her.
Why wouldn't they be able to access the website by themselves? Why not?
Well,
Why
they
can't
could
they do it?
certainly do it on their own website. They have
That's right.
access to their own website, and
And just
you know,
link it over to ours.
I did run into Sherry Cohen recently, and she had seen this and said that they would be happy to do it, and they didn't think it would take them any significant resources
Then maybe they
to
can
make
do it for
happen.
us.
You know what? Let's call them up and ask.
I think we should. Because they have the technology over there. I bet you get a couple of high school projects, they could get this thing on there so fast we wouldn't even know it wasn't on there. Okay?
Well, I will comment that, years and years and years ago on the IDC, we got an intern from across the street, down the street, to work on some projects. And this might be one of those perfect things to get someone from Wheaton.
Yeah.
Or even the high school.
Well, the high school.
The high school?
Maybe a couple of high school students would do this intern.
High school kids would probably do this with nothing flat.
And they're always looking for community service hours.
Yep,
No,
that's a good approach.
fiscally responsible. Let's do it.
I love that idea.
Paul?
They're smart.
I still don't see why this is needed when, at least on salary issues, we have all the information provided free to us in print form every year, as long as you're willing to wait till the following April from July 1st to get the information. Yes, it is a year late, but we've got a fiscal record of what everybody in this town has earned and what has been paid for all positions. It goes back for decades. Just look at the town report. What is the utility of this?
Well, not that I want to belabor this point much longer, but how many times in this committee between January and May, when we're getting next year's budget, does someone ask, can you explain what that dollar figure, where's that coming from in the contract? How many times do we ask that? Multiple times. Every year. So in that sense, there it is. We don't have to ask the question. Mike doesn't have to waste his time. So in that sense.
Wait 11 months.
Right. The other thing about it, for me at least, is that these PDFs should be keyword searchable, and I can open it up from my living room, type in a word, find what I'm looking for, not have to come down here, get the town report, flip through 275 pages, and get what I'm looking for.
Yep.
That's why we have 300 extra town reports in there, because people are so interested in what people are getting paid. They don't even take the town reports.
I think we're getting.
Later.
But I think if we could get the school, not Wheaton or the high school, to do something like this, it would be fantastic. Because then everybody would be happy, the kids would be happy, and they could do it a hell of a lot better than anybody in this building, I believe. They're faster, but the only thing I have is, I don't know if there's any confidentiality conflicts we have. Is there any? Everything's a matter of public record, so they know.
Yeah, it's going to be up on a
confidentiality.
website in the end, so.
It's all part of public record.
Right. So, with that said, any motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we
Can't move
approve
your own-
Article 17.
You can't move your own article.
Okay, well then,
One of
Steve
the
can
people
move it.
Somebody can move it.
I'll move it.
One of my people?
Yeah, one of
No, I
the-
have people.
Four of you.
Aren't we all the same people?
We are the
No, I
same
meant-
people with
yeah, I meant one of the people
Fine,
that part of it
stop,
can move it.
stop. One body here.
Yep.
We can have differing views, still one body, and we have to operate that way. Anybody want to move it?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Article 17 as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Article 17, let me back up. Were we changing that wording so it's not stating Mike needs to do it?
What's the article that has to stand as it
We can't,
is? Can't change the,
can't,
I wouldn't.
You change the article the way it's written.
all right then. All those in favor? Oh,
I'm in favor.
we're in favor.
Or you're still doing favor?
We're still doing favor.
I heard a word opposed.
I was getting there. Opposed? Abstained? Article passes.
Article 18 is similar, requesting that procurement contracts with a value of $5,000 or greater be posted. Now, I didn't have an issue with the previous one. This one, I think, is a bit ridiculous, and I don't know any other town that does this. We don't even a contract of 5,000, we don't even have to go out to bid for that. We don't have to get other prices for a contract that low under state procurement laws. You know, anything under 10, we don't have to do anything. I mean, you sound business practices, so you call a couple people. I don't see what is it. People I do see looking for people's employment contracts, I could see that happening, but I don't see how a ton of people are going to be looking to see what contracts we have out there. Anything we do, for the most part, you see it through capital, you know what's happening. But I think this is a waste of time, and I don't know if other towns do this or not, but.
Paul?
Peel a little bit of history on this. When I first came on, or 2 or 3 decades ago, we had a town bylaw that was exactly this. The Finance Committee and the town meeting subsequently voted, I can't tell you exactly when, but voted to move it from 5 to 10 because it made no sense to have it for such a small item. And that's where it stands today, that 10 is where you have the cutoff point, I believe. Isn't that correct in terms of?
State law?
No, not state law, town. No, the town has something on that, I can tell you.
Okay.
It may be buried someplace. It was 5, and then while I was on this committee, an article was brought in to move it up to 10.
And that wasn't to make something a capital expenditure?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just that you didn't have to go through all of the process unless something was greater than 10. I'm getting old and senile, so you better check me out on that. So this it looks to me like what this is doing, it would be going back to where we were before the town voted to move it from 5 to 10.
Rick? So right now, you adhere to the state policy. Other towns are doing the same thing, correct?
Yeah. Under 10, sound business practices, 10 to 50, you get 3 written prices, and over 50, you go out to bid.
I mean, there's a lot of requests that you do daily, right? The town?
RFPs?
Yeah.
Not that many. Like all our supplies, we get through Sursage.
Right, Surge, right.
And they do our fuel, they do all the highway chemicals and supplies. And then we'll go out every 3 years, 2 to 3 years for copiers. But now that Combis is out there, a lot of the stuff is on the state bid list, so we don't even go out. We buy it off the state bid list.
Yeah.
What was your purpose of putting the contracts on?
Honestly, I felt really strongly about Article 17. Article 18 kind of came out when people are asking me, oh, you're on the Finance Committee. What do you know about this thing that we're doing? Or what do you know about that thing that we're doing? And I had no idea. And they said, somebody said to me, it would be great if we could see like what the town is contracting for. And I think part of it is they see, I got a text the other morning, why is Bob Kimball raking on the town common?
Yeah.
People see things all over town and they ask questions. And I think having a centralized place where you can just tell people, like, look, if you have a question, if we're spending money on something, you can go here and look. I don't think it's a bad idea. And I don't think it adds anything to the work involved in going out to bid for something. Just on the back end, if a contract's signed, if we're creating a digital repository for our contracts anyway, we put it on the website. That's it.
Walter?
Is there a precedent for this anywhere else? Have you seen this done anywhere else that we could copy or look at as?
I have not.
This sounds to me like a lot more maintenance than the contracts. So while I'm thinking that information is valuable, I think we do need to be practical, that this is a lot more fluid. You're going to change much more frequently, more difficult to maintain. So I'm concerned about keeping this accurate. Contracts less so because they're longer term.
Right.
So, I think we should be moving in this direction, but I am concerned about the maintenance of this kind of thing.
And just to add to Walter's point, because I live it, a lot of times the RFPs get amended quite a bit, so someone's going to be on top of that.
How many contracts would there roughly be that would fall into this category? Could you even make an estimate?
I can't. Well, you got copy machine, you got rubbish removal, you've got janitorial, you got MX Consulting, people that police and fire use to maintain their equipment. I mean, just.
That's just this side.
Mm.
How many do they
I was
have
just trying to get an idea.
over in the school department?
Right.
They've got to have tremendous number of contracts.
Seems like this might also require a lot of very frequent communication with every department and become kind of a general hornet's nest of having to share information back.
Every purchase order is considered a contract also. And I'm chairman of the Common Revitalization Committee. That's why I'm out there raking. But we're also creating some purchase orders, and in my opinion, that's a contract also. And some of those were over $5,000. You start talking about monuments and things like that, it does add up. I'm not so concerned about the town side. I think the schools will be inundated because they have so many different contracts for so many different purposes, and I can't imagine, trying to stay on top of all of them. It would be quite a challenge to make it all happen. But the purchase order is considered a contract. We have to sign off. We have to get the 1099. We have to get all the other stuff that goes along with it. So it's a lot bigger than it sounds. And, I talked about paperwork in the basement. There's a lot of contracts down there from years and years and years. So I think it's a lot of effort to do something like this. And I don't think the town hall has the manpower to do it to begin with. So I think it's going to be difficult to maintain, especially with the different purchase orders being signed all the time. And to your comment, Paul, we increased the, I was on the committee with you, we increased the capital from $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
And we did that because inflation was getting to a point where everything was costing $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you and I did that when I was on the finance committee years ago. And I think it's probably time we look at it again, actually, because $10,000 is nothing today.
About what
too.
$5,000 was before, yeah. Move it.
Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I can't.
I'll make a motion.
Moderator, I make a motion we take an action on Article 8.
Second.
Oh, no, I didn't hear him.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I will not vote for no action because I believe it is a responsibility of this committee. We take no action when we're missing information.
I'm sorry, Paul. May I again then? I
Move it and let's see whether it goes up or down. But we've got all what we need here, and so it is our responsibility to make a recommendation, whatever it is.
I misspoke. I moved that we
Just move the article.
recommend to not.
No,
No,
just move the article.
always move to
Just say,
recommend.
I move Article,
And then
I
we'll
move
say-
Article 18.
We always move it.
And I'll second it. And then we'll bring it to a vote. That's how
Well,
it, that's how it would.
I had a,
I move Article 18.
Yeah.
I had a
Second.
motion and a second, though, before.
You have to withdraw your motion. I have to withdraw my
Withdraw
second.
your first
I'd
motion.
like to withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you.
It is 10 o'clock.
So late. So
Just
tiny.
saying. Can we straighten this out?
Now do I hear a motion?
To move Article 8.
A second.
All those in favor of Article 18, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstaining? Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're going to talk about it.
Paul, all right, Article 19, Paul, someone was calling you. All right, so, as I said before, we're going to be going out to borrow on those water and sewer projects, the school window projects, and they're going to look at everything we do again. And obviously, we don't have much money in our OPEB account, but it is building with the interest. And not that Mansfield, obviously, they have a lot more money than us, so that's why they can appropriate more money, but they put $400,000 into their OPEB this year. I'm just looking to keep going in a positive direction. I know in the past, we were going up 10,000, but last year we shrunk that to 5. And I recommend that we continue going up 5,000 and put 90,000 into OPEB and out of free cash,
90,000?
90,000.
And this money...
Last year was 85.
This money goes into this account, and this account does what?
This,
Just had to ask.
other post-employment benefits covers the cost for retirees, for, the sick leave buyback or anything like that we have to pay out. And doesn't cover pension. Pension is in the Bristol County Retirement.
Yep.
So it's just the other benefits, health care and
So...
sick leave buyback that they might have, or vacation that they get. And obviously, we don't want to use it now because it's so small, we want to build it up. And our liability is like 54 million. And the way the actuarials look at that would be like if we were a business and we declared bankruptcy today, and everyone that worked for the town was done.
Right.
It's not going to happen, but they require you to have this account and put money into it.
So we put in money every year. What is the balance?
370.
Right now,
Yeah.
375,
370.
370.
375,000 against an obligation based on an actuarial of 55 million.
And
Paul?
am I right in remembering that we cannot, when people retire, we cannot use this until we have got the 59
Well,
million? Or
we-
until we've got enough to cover
Yeah.
what would happen if the town disappeared and everybody retired or died or did something at once, and we had to pay everybody?
Well, obviously, that's the goal, but if we were desperate and we had no money and we owed somebody, we could take it out of here, but you don't want to, obviously,
But-
put 85,000, 90,000 in and then take it out.
Well,
That would look worse than,
In my simplistic view, to have a reserve fund to cover retirement costs for those articles that we have from time to time in town meeting to recover, we just voted, to cover retirement costs. We do this practically every year. That would be fine. What bothers me is that, and I've been told this ever since OPEB was founded, that we can't touch this money until we have it fully funded, until the account is fully funded. And there's only, as I understand it, one community in the state that is fully
Wellesley.
funded, Wellesley.
they borrowed to do it.
Yeah, well, Wellesley
I
can.
think they actually had an override to fund their OPEB.
Jeez. And last spring, when we were trying to find money for the school department and everything else, I sat there thinking about that 85,000 that we'd put into this, excuse me, stupid fund, which we can't ever use. If it was usable, if it served a purpose, just what you were asking, I'd say fine. I think this is one of the strangest things, and I've heard you last year very cogently explain to me about people who give, bonding and all of that sort of thing, and that they would look at this in askance. Well, I would love to move zero. I know I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. But I would like to, there's no motion on the floor, so I can't move an amendment yet. So I'm going to wait until there's a motion on the floor, and then I'll make my, I swore I would not go through the ranting that I did last year, because you all were here to hear it then. You don't need to hear it again.
It was my first year in misery. I'll make the amendment.
I'll second.
No.
All I'm gonna say,
I wasn't going to do
just as you're kind of repeating yourself, optics are very important. Price of borrowing is going up. You're being, in my opinion, penny wise and pound foolish. If you don't show the optics that we're supporting this, we as a town are supposed to support this. In reality, 90,000 against a $55 million, not really supporting it. Optics, however, shows that we are willing to put something in, not to keep it the same, because with inflation, if you keep it the same, you're putting in less.
Okay. All right.
So to do anything less than increasing it at a very paltry 5,000 looks bad, and you risk, with all the things we have to borrow for, causing us to pay more. And
Agreed, but I will tell you that if this is what I regard as blackmail, we are being told that we must do this, or our interest rates they'll jack up our interest rates and everything else. It's just knuckling under to what I do really regard as blackmail. I think if you went out and asked almost anybody in this town, are they willing to do this? They'd say no. Do we have to do it? Maybe we have to do it. I don't do it willingly, and I doubt if many other people in this town would do it willingly because of the nature of it. You're putting, every year you're gonna suck that much money out of free cash, and each year it's gonna be a little bit more, and it's gonna go on not just through my lifetime or your lifetime or anybody's lifetime here. It's gonna go on as long as this bloody town is around and this law is in effect that got imposed upon us. And I feel like standing up and doing I can't stand it anymore and all of that kind of business, because it's the most egregious misuse of something that makes sense if you're talking about corporations. We've seen corporations that shut their doors. Somebody arrives for work, and it can be a restaurant, it can be a big corporation, and we've seen it. We've all seen it. That they're having a fund like this makes some sense to me. For municipalities, it makes none.
Municipalities declare bankruptcy.
I know they declare bankruptcy, but they don't fire their.
But their obligations still have to be paid. So whether it's, from the state paying it or from the town.
But the amount we have in this thing wouldn't touch the obligation. I mean, it sort of boggles the mind to think that if we really had to fulfill all of our retirement and whatever the other thing was, obligations at once, it would be $59 million for this little town. But that's what we're told. And so we're also told we're not supposed to use it until it's fully funded.
I'm not
Then if
sure
we had
Mike
more
said
in it
that.
than we needed to fully fund it, I guess we could use it for current retirements and things of that sort. So, I understand what you're saying. I know that what you've told me is probably true. I have sat in the selectman's office and taken part in discussions over the phone with people who were trying to decide what kind of rating to give us down at Moody's or wherever it was that was calling it that particular day. It just sticks in my craw.
Steve?
In your associations or trade groups or town managers groups, has anybody in those groups come forward saying that this kind of stuff has impacted their borrow?
I would think everyone would say that it would impact their borrowing. I don't know whether they can prove that it did or not, but it would show up when we get rated. It would be, we get a report from Standard & Poor's, and if it's a negative, they'll put it in there. And I know, I understand where Paul's coming from, but also, do we want to risk going out and borrowing $5 million and having to pay more than this in interest payments over 20 or 30 years for a principal? I mean, it's just something, it's not, we don't create this game, but it's the game we got to play in. And unfortunately, we can't change it.
And I can tell you, it is a metric that financial institutions look at. It's a metric.
Oh, I'm sure you're right. I still don't see how putting money into a fund that you can never use is good financial policy.
Right, but it's still, it's a metric. And it's a negative metric if it stays at the same pace. So,
I'll move. Good.
any further discussion on
You both
this?
said you weren't going to do this.
What?
We talked
Is there-
about
I
Has
have
anybody-
one question, I'll be
has
super
anybody made a
quick.
motion
So,
yet? I
we
can't-
really can't
make
touch
an
this at
amendment.
all. Like, if we had some sort of crazy emergency, it's not like your 401k and you can like borrow
Yeah,
against it or anything like that.
If you had a crazy emergency and you had no money left over, you could,
Okay.
It's, you can use it.
yeah. We just don't, that would look worse, I think, on the optics. If
Right.
you were so,
Not yet.
if you were so desperate that you started taking money out of your OPEB, not when you're not even close to
Yeah.
funding it, I think.
Yeah.
It,
But
just
you
good
can,
to know that
if
if we
there
had
was an
some
em-
sort of massive crisis, that
Yep.
we could get it back out if we had to.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion?
You have a motion?
Peter,
I started.
Really like to.
Please finish.
We move, I recommend we move $90,000 from free cash to fund the OPEB liability in Article 19.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to propose an amendment. I'd like to change that number to 10,000.
I'll second for discussion.
10,000 more?
10,000 total.
No.
Just wanted to clarify.
It's just turned into a nightmare.
That's a joke. Nice job.
You want to make it 100,000?
No, I want to make it 10,000.
Okay.
Reduce the sum, the figure to 10,000.
Okay, I have an amendment proposed, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, none on the amendment. Although voting in favor is you're voting
10,000.
to change it from 90 to 10. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Sorry, Paul.
Amendment fails. Back to the article. Any further discussions? You're hesitating. Okay.
Till next year.
Okay. All those in favor of the article, 90,000 coming from free cash? Opposed? Article passes.
And look on the bright side. Last,
I provide some humor every year.
as we put more in, we're getting interest, and our interest last year is more than we put into OPEB in FY14.
Ah, look at that. We're earning money.
Yeah, well, I think we should never have gone more than 10,000.
You can sleep tonight.
The last article is stabilization, and my recommendation is, as we did last year, put 300,000 into stabilization. Now, here's a one that we're closer to funding. If we put 300,000 into stabilization this year, we should be at like 2.7 million. We'll be at 2,045,000. If we put 300,000 in this year and 300,000 next year, and then maybe the next year, we're probably at our 5% and won't have to be putting money into stabilization
Awesome.
for a couple of
We
years.
can put into OPEB.
Well, but also whatever we have left in capital improvements counts as if it were
It does,
stabilization.
right.
Amy, where did you want to put it? In OPEB?
I just said.
So,
Don't get me involved.
So you said 2.7 or 2.4? What was the total?
our,
The
And I-
total would be,
If we put
if
300
we
in.
put
it would be-
300 in, we'll have 2,045,000.
As long as-
And the goal is 5% of the budget?
Right.
so 5% of 55?
So we should be at like
So just-
2.5. So if we put 300,000, knowing the budget's going to go up a little bit, if we do it for 3 years, we should easily be at our 5%.
And we can access this with no problem. We can access it whenever we want.
Yes.
We can access it
Yep.
when we need to. We have needed.
2/3.
Several times over the last few years.
Yep, you had to use it in FY6, FY8, twice in FY8 and FY10. And then we didn't put anything in for 3 years. Maybe if we had put something in each of those 3 years, we'd be there, but,
But we had to take out.
yeah.
We had to fund OPEB.
No, we would.
No, we had.
No, OPEB's
Mr. Chairman, I recommend transferring $300,000 from free cash to our stabilization fund.
Second?
Any discussion?
Can we do that next week?
All those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you. So no need to meet next week, right? Just,
10?
I'll let you know if I get any other information before town meeting on the articles that you have no action right now. And you can then decide if, well, you could schedule your meeting for the night of town meeting anyways.
Well, are you gonna schedule a meeting for next Wednesday so that,
So do we need one next Wednesday, or?
I don't think so.
well, the only reason I say that is sometimes from past
Just in
experience, you suddenly need it and you haven't gotten it posted
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
I would
Okay.
suggest you post it.
Cancel.
And I'll let you know if I have any information on those articles.
Make it so we can legally do it if we have to do it.
Okay. Otherwise, the night of 6 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Possibly next Wednesday.
Okay. So,
Right, you said it.
This went a little longer than I anticipated. Something I asked Mike to print out, because I don't think any of us, I'm going to assume most of us do not look at this, but
this is our financials from last year. And I would recommend reading them because the notes specifically, because that will give you a lot of information as to what we're doing here every year and where the money goes and why we do it. I don't, I know I haven't looked at it, you know, in depth. I've looked at others. But I think it's good information for what we're doing here. And so I asked Mike to print them out, because I said, I don't have a printer anymore, so it's tough to read. Other than that, we have 3 sets of minutes to review. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes for the meeting of September 10th as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman? Yep. I move we accept the minutes of the meeting of September 17th as written.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Walter, I think you have to abstain. Because I don't think you were there.
It's late.
So 3 abstentions?
Okay, then I have to amend that. You're listed as present.
No, he's not.
Oh, not in
Not
attendance.
present,
My
17.
apologies.
Yeah.
No, you were,
So we're all set with that.
that was the meeting Walter missed.
The 24th, I wasn't, but I am listed as present.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the meeting minutes from September 24th as amended.
Second.
Rick, weren't you there?
Yes,
Am I missing your name?
yeah, you're right.
So as amended?
Yes, so as amended to include Rick and exclude Mike.
Um, right.
He's making sounds like there was an issue. So I'm not sure.
Huh?
Are you all set?
Yeah, yeah, it was just,
Okay.
it's stated right, as it was stated, but
So I got a motion, who seconded?
I did.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Awesome. Any other items?
Like, go with motion tonight. Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous.